Chapter 68. The dishes began to be served. Hua Jinyao took her bowl, scooped a bowl of soup for her, and placed it in front of her. Come, have some soup. You have to eat more. We gave you a gift. Su Qingsing finally had a smile on her face. She didn't know what to do with this person. Stop fooling around. If others knew, they would think that he came from a slum. Really? Hua Jinyao looked serious. Let me ask you, did you also give a gift just now? Yes. Look, you gave a gift, and so did I. Wouldn't it be a loss if we don't eat more? Su Qingsing looked at Hua Jinyao and couldn't help but laugh. She really couldn't do anything about him. Why was this person so funny? Okay, let's eat more. There was no one else at this table anyway. The two of them didn't care about their image. Although they didn't wolf down the food, they were definitely not gentle. Old Master Li, who was sitting at the head table, glanced at them from afar and finally felt relieved. He didn't want to be enemies with the Hua family. If possible, he had to be on good terms. It seemed that Hua Jinyao really didn't have anything to do with the Hua family. This was good. As for Su Qingsing, since she was married, there was nothing to guard against Su Peijian, so let her be. The Li family wasn't such a harsh family. Su Qingsing didn't know what others were thinking. With so many people looking at her, as if she were a monster, under Hua Jinyao's encouragement, she really ate a little more than usual. When she walked out of the hotel, she touched her stomach and looked at Hua Jinyao with some suspicion. It's all your fault. What happened to me? I ate too much. If it weren't for him picking up food for her and persuading her to eat back, she wouldn't have been so stubborn. How could she be so stubborn? Really? Hua Jinyao stopped and suddenly reached out to touch her lower abdomen. Let me help you rub it. Don't. Su Qingsing couldn't stop him. Hua Jinyao's hand had already reached out. His palm was wide and warm. It was hot now. Through a thin layer of clothes, Su Qingsing could clearly feel the feeling of his hand on her abdomen. Blushing, she took a step back uncomfortably. Stop it. Now that the banquet was over, many people were walking out. Hua Jinyao held her hand. What did I do? Didn't you say that you were too full? Hua Jinyao. It's okay, honey. Let's go for a walk. It'll help with digestion. No. This place was a little far from her apartment. She still had to get her car and hurry home. I still have to work tomorrow. There's no hurry. Hua Jinyao thought for a moment and suddenly exclaimed. By the way, there's a park not far from here. It's still early. Let's go there for a walk, then come back and drive. Su Qingsing really didn't want to go. She had always been a homebody. No, afraid that he would insist on taking her for a walk in the park. She tried to change the topic. Aren't you tired? Go back and rest early. Honey, are you worried about me? Hua Jinyao hugged her without waiting for her answer. Honey, you're worried about me. You're the best. I'm the one. Who cares about him? Su Qingsing did not want to admit it. However, Hua Jinyao didn't know how to keep a low profile at all. He picked her up and kissed her hard on the lips. Su Qingsing could already see the eyes of the people around her. She blushed for a moment. Put me down. My wife is so nice. Hua Jinyao kissed her face again. Honey, I'm not tired. I'm really not tired. I still have the strength to walk with you. After thinking for a moment, he added eagerly, not to mention a walk. Even if you want me to fight with you for 7 rounds, I can still cooperate. Really? Chapter 69. Hua Jinyao. Couldn't this person be more serious? What's wrong with me? Hua Jinyao looked at her innocently. I said, I can still play 7 rounds with you. What are you thinking about? Su Qingsing glared at him, turned around, and left. Look at you. Why are you angry? You can tell me if you don't know how to play chess. Hua Jinyao seemed to be addicted to teasing her. Go away. He clearly remembered the look in his eyes and what he meant just now. That was, Hua Jinyao followed behind her to hold her hand. She broke free, and he pulled her again. Finally, he held her hand and moved closer to her ear. Are you thinking about something embarrassing? Don't worry. I can satisfy you too. Hua Jinyao. Su Qingsing was so angry that she wanted to pull her hand out again. Hua Jinyao wasn't afraid. He held her hand tightly. Really? Honey, you have to believe me. I've always been very strong. You're still talking about it. Why don't you try it tonight? Su Qingsing. Su Qingsing took Hua Jinyao's words seriously. After taking a shower, she stood at the door hesitantly. Hua Jinyao had already taken a shower and was lying on the bed playing with his phone. Su Qingsang knew that this person wasn't serious. When she went up to him and found out that he was playing Xiao Pao, she was even more speechless. You, don't be noisy. I only have 2 ice cubes left to pass. Su Qingsang opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. She even thought that this man couldn't be a member of the whole family. Such a man actually liked to play such a game. Seriously, what are you looking at? Hua Jinyao passed the game. When he went to the next level, he saw Su Qingsang's shocked face. Don't underestimate this. The next levels are very difficult. Su Qingsang's lips moved. She was a little speechless. You don't believe me? Try it. Hua Jinyao put the phone in Su Qingsang's hand as he spoke. Su Qingsang didn't have time to play games. She had been busy with her studies for the past few years. She knew about Xiao Pao because a pregnant woman in the ward liked it. Hua Jinyao had already passed more than 1,000 levels. How free was he? She took the phone and played with it for a while, then realized that it was really not easy. At the end of the round, she still had more than half of the ice left. It was very awkward. Haha, I told you it wasn't easy, right? Hua Jinyao didn't take his phone back as he spoke. Instead, he put his arms around her waist. His other hand lightly touched the screen. Come, I'll teach you. She wanted to return the phone to him. However, he grabbed her hand and circled her in his arms to play the game. Here, look here. He was too close. Behind her was his warm, almost boiling chest, and to her side was his strong arms. Feeling his breath on her neck, Su Qingsang felt very uncomfortable. She gently twisted her body, trying to get him to let go of her. Don't move. Look, we're about to pass. His hot breath brushed against her cheeks, making her feel more and more uncomfortable. She couldn't help but turn her face away. However, she forgot that he was holding her in his arms. As soon as she turned around, his lips fell on hers. Su Qingsang froze for a moment and stared at Hua Jinyao. Her palm fell onto the quilt. Chapter 70. The air seemed to start to become hot. The cold air from the air conditioner couldn't relieve the heat in Su Qingsang's heart at all. She watched as Hua Jinyao deepened the kiss, watched as he laid her body flat, watched as his hand began to move downwards. Her consciousness blurred for a moment, and her rationality told her that this was wrong. She couldn't let Hua Jinyao do this. But emotionally, she felt as if it was supposed to be like this. She was his wife now. He was her husband. Wasn't it right and proper for him to want to do something to her? She could feel his excitement, and her consciousness began to wander. Yes, he was her husband. Su Qingsang thought of this and didn't resist, but she didn't go further. Okay, she just felt a little hot. It was so hot that she couldn't stand it and wanted to get rid of it. All of Hua Jinyao's movements suddenly stopped. He buried his face in her neck and panted heavily. Su Qingsang didn't dare to move. She didn't understand what was wrong with him. Can I? He asked her. His voice was a little hoarse. But when she heard it, she felt that it was extremely sexy. She couldn't help but turn her face to look at him. She could feel that he couldn't help it anymore. But at this time, he still stopped to ask her what she wanted. She suddenly felt a little touched. This man was actually quite good to her. He could just ignore her wishes. Given the current situation, could she still resist? But he asked himself. She was a little touched, but she couldn't say a word. Hua Jinyao's breathing became heavier. He gently bit her chin and said, Can I? Su Qingsang's face was so hot that she couldn't speak. When she met Hua Jinyao's eyes, which were as bright as stars, her brain heated up. She leaned over and bit his lower jaw lightly as well. This ignited the fire. Hua Jinyao gritted his teeth, propped up his body, and looked at Su Qingsang. You asked for this. He sounded like he was gnashing his teeth. Su Qingsang was a little scared. She instinctively wanted to dodge to the side, but it was already too late. The rest of her words were swallowed. Everything that happened next was not up to her to decide. Su Qingsang had never felt that the night was so long. It was so long that she wished it could end immediately. She felt as if she was dead, but also as if she was still alive. She didn't drink at the banquet, so how could she be drunk now? It was really the feeling of being drunk, sometimes rising, sometimes falling. He was dizzy and in a trance. This feeling was something she had never experienced before. Eventually, Her consciousness became hazy, and she gradually fell asleep. As for what Hu Jinyao did after that, she seemed to have a feeling about it, but she didn't have time to object. When Su Qingsang opened her eyes, her first thought was that she was late. Her second reaction was to remember that it was her turn to rest today. The sudden soreness in her body woke her up instantly. All the memories from yesterday had become exceptionally clear now. "Good morning, wife." The sudden voice made her turn her head and see Hu Jinyao's enlarged face in front of her. He supported his head with one hand and looked at her with a smile. Su Qingsang suddenly blushed. She smacked him. "Honey, I'm so sorry." "Good morning." Morning. Su Qingsang suddenly stuttered. She shrank her body and realized that she was in a state where she was naked. She wanted to wrap herself in the quilt. She thought so and did so. However, the moment she wrapped herself into a cocoon, Hu Jinyao hugged her into his arms. Chapter 71. Su Qingsang looked like a chrysalis, unable to move under Hu Jinyao's body. Unfortunately, she was the one who had trapped herself in a cocoon of her own making. There would be only one head sticking out. It was very hot. Even with the air conditioner, Su Qingsang couldn't stand it. After a while, she begged for mercy. Get up, get up." She was so hot that she was sweating. Hu Jinyao just looked at her and didn't move. He just acted like a rascal. "I'm not getting up. You didn't even call me husband." "What? I called you wife the whole night last night, but you didn't call me husband." Hu Jinyao's voice was filled with grievance and accusation. "Stop it. Get out of the way." She was really hot and hungry. Fortunately, she didn't have to go to work today. Otherwise, she would definitely be late. "No, I won't. If you call me husband, I'll let you go." When Hu Jinyao became a rascal, Su Qingsang definitely couldn't resist him. "Hu Jinyao, you bit me yesterday." This sound was even more aggrieved. Hu Jinyao moved his shoulder in front of her to let her see his masterpiece. "Tell me, how are you going to make it up to me?" There were several bite marks on Hu Jinyao's shoulder. Su Qingsang was angry, embarrassed, and ashamed. She did remember that she bit him last night when she was in pain. It seemed more than one bite. At first, it was pain, and then it was tiredness. She wanted to beg him for mercy several times and ask him to let her go, but this guy just refused. "I said that we would fight for 7 rounds. It's still early. How could she really let him do it 7 times? She would definitely die in his hands then." Later, begging for mercy didn't work. She was exhausted and angry, so she could only bite him. But she didn't expect the mark to be so deep. There was even one on her neck. If the neckline of her clothes was a little bigger, she was afraid that people would see it. Su Qingsang blushed and didn't look at Hu Jinyao. "Get out of the way. You make it up to me first." Hu Jinyao slightly narrowed his eyes as if he was calculating. "Look, you owed me many times before. Plus yesterday. How much do you think you owe me? How could there be such a rascal?" "Such a rascal?" Su Qingsang was angry. "Didn't I pay you back yesterday?" "What do you mean?" "Yesterday you—" Even though Su Qingsang was an obstetrician and could remain extremely calm in front of patients, she was choked and speechless. "What about me yesterday?" Hu Jinyao smirked. Su Qingsang gritted her teeth. "Are you going to get up or not?" "Up. Rise." Hu Jinyao stepped back as he spoke. Just as Su Qingsang was about to pull the quilt away, he took the opportunity to get under the covers. "Jinyao, I hate to be in debt. Since you owe me, you should pay me back quickly." Su Qingsang hadn't realized what he was talking about. She foolishly followed his words and said, I did it yesterday." "Yes, you did. I haven't." Hu Jinyao leaned against her. "I paid you back for yesterday and today. Today's and tomorrow's. I don't want you to return it." What kind of nonsense was this? Why did he bring her in? "I think it's still—" With these 3 words, Hu Jinyao sealed his lips with a kiss. Su Qingsang couldn't fight back. She turned into fine sand on the beach, was swept up by the waves, and was washed ashore. Huge waves surged, rolling up boundless waves and bringing up countless fine sand. Su Qingsang and Hu Jinyao fooled around until it was almost noon. She was starving and had no strength. Hu Jinyao was also aware of what he had done, so he called someone to deliver food. Su Qingsang ate some food and took a nap. She didn't wake up until it was almost evening. Feeling a little better, she was thinking about whether she should sleep for a while, only to find that Hu Jinyao was not there. She slightly frowned and looked at the empty room. She was momentarily disappointed. She thought that he would be guarding her. Chapter 72. Hu Jinyao was completely different from his usual carefree self. Su Qingsang was a little curious. She even forgot about the discomfort in her body and walked towards the balcony. Hu Jinyao turned his face sideways and didn't see her approach. The news on the other end of the phone made his face turn ugly. His face was cold, and his voice was lower than usual. There's no room for negotiation. If they didn't agree, then he would change to another one. We can see who will be at a disadvantage. Don't bring her up to pressure me. If you want to follow her, I don't mind. After saying this, the glass door was pulled open. Su Qingsang walked out. Hu Jinyao was stunned. His fingers reacted first and hung up the phone. You're up? Yes. Su Qingsang's voice was a little hoarse when she spoke. Realizing the reason, she felt uncomfortable. Who are you calling? She didn't want to think about the previous scene, nor did she want to think about what this guy had done to her. Su Qingsang changed the subject. Nothing, just someone from the company. Someone from the company? Why do you look so angry? She didn't hear it clearly, but she could tell from her expression. It's okay. Hu Jinyao said, there's something wrong with the contract we signed a few days ago. Don't worry. I can handle it. Su Qingsang didn't know much about these things, so she didn't ask. As long as it can be solved. She wanted to say that he could tell her if he needed any help, but she remembered that there was nothing she could do to help. He didn't say anything else. Hu Jinyao put the phone in his pocket, stepped forward, and put his arm around Su Qingsang's waist. You care about me? Su Qingsang's waist was still soft. Being hugged by him made her feel like she couldn't even stand straight. Let go. You care about me? Seeing that she didn't answer, Hu Jinyao wasn't disappointed. Instead, he kissed her on the cheek and said, My wife is so nice. You care about me so much. I'm really touched. 3 black lines appeared on Su Qingsang's forehead. Could this guy not be so good at talking to himself? I didn't. Looks like you're very satisfied with my efforts yesterday. They all know that they care about me. I'm so touched. Hu Jinyao's ability to talk to himself had once again refreshed Su Qingsang's understanding of him. How thick was this person's skin? How was she concerned about him? Also, what did he mean by she was very satisfied with his efforts yesterday? Go away. I'm not satisfied. Her waist was about to break. What was there for her to be satisfied about? You're not satisfied? Hu Jinyao turned to look at her with a strange expression on his face. Let's do it again. Don't worry. I promise you'll be satisfied this time. Hu Jinyao. Su Qingsang had had enough. She had never met anyone as shameless as this guy. Are you going to move or not? Let. Hu Jinyao knew when to stop. Seeing that Su Qingsang didn't seem to be in a good mood, he touched his nose and walked up to her. Honey, are you hungry? You haven't eaten anything all day. What do you want to eat? It would have been better if he hadn't mentioned it. Now that he did, Su Qingsang wanted to kill him. Who was responsible for her not eating for a day? Hu Jinyao shrank his neck when she glanced at him coldly. It's late. Should I order takeout now? Su Qingsang didn't respond. She didn't have the energy to go out to eat anyway. When they were outside, the two of them sat on the sofa together. Hu Jinyao held her in his arms and rested his chin on her shoulder. Su Qingsang felt uncomfortable. She couldn't stand it and wanted to hide. Don't touch me. Hu Jinyao looked innocent. I didn't touch you. He moved his mouth and head, not his hands and feet. Su Qingsang gritted her teeth and took a deep breath. She told herself not to argue with a rascal. Chapter 73. Hu Jinyao tightened his grip on her waist. He was behind her, so she couldn't see his expression. Our company. That's right. What were they doing on a business trip for so many days? You said the contract has been negotiated. What is it about? Su Qingsang didn't come back to her senses until she said that. She turned to look at Hu Jinyao. Since she was his other half, she should at least know what he did outside, right? Hu Jinyao hugged her tightly and kissed her on the cheek. Aren't you worried about me? They're starting to care about my work. Hu Jinyao, don't change the subject. Su Qingsang began to feel that something was wrong. Don't change the subject. She really didn't care about him. She just wanted to clarify things. In the future, she would have to deal with the Leaf family, the Su family, and even some related people. She didn't want to be ignorant. As long as he had a proper job, as long as the things he did were not shameful, she didn't mind at all. Well, Hua Jinyao touched his nose and said, "It's not that I don't want to tell you. It's just that I'm new here, and the company I work for is also a small one. So, it's fine if it's a small company. What does it do?" "It's a trading company." Hua Jinyao nodded. "A very small trading company. There are only a few people, including me. That's why I'm going with the boss for that business last time." Su Qingsang stared into his eyes, as if she was trying to confirm his words. Hua Jinyao's eyes were dark and bright. At that moment, she could clearly see her own reflection in them. The words that Su Qingsang wanted to say stopped there. For a moment, she forgot what she wanted to say. Her eyes were still filled with suspicion. Hua Jinyao cleared his throat and seemed a little uncomfortable. "It's really a very small trading company. It's too small for me to tell you." "I'm fine." When Su Qingsang came back to her senses, she realized that she was staring at Hua Jinyao in a daze, which was not a good sign. "It doesn't matter if the company is small. Do it well. Everyone starts from a young age. Honey, you're the best." As Hua Jinyao spoke, he kissed her on the cheek again. "Don't worry. I'll definitely work hard." Su Qingsang looked at the look on his face that was begging for praise, and 3 black lines appeared on her forehead again. The next day was Sunday. Su Qingsang was woken up by Hua Jinyao early in the morning. She was so sleepy that she broke free from Hua Jinyao's hand and lay back down. "Stop it. I'm so sleepy." This fellow was not enough to mess with her for one night, so he messed with her for half the night yesterday. She was sleepy and didn't want to get up. "The weather is good today. Let's go out and play." Hua Jinyao was in high spirits. He grabbed Su Qingsang's hand and pulled her back. Su Qingsang was furious. "Hua Jinyao, have you had enough?" She had been working the night shift last week and hadn't had a good rest. Su Qingsang was exasperated. "Get out of here." Hua Jinyao didn't expect Su Qingsang to be so angry when she woke up. He was momentarily stunned. Su Qingsang ignored him, turned over, and went back to sleep. Hua Jinyao stared at her back for a while, then finally walked out quietly. She fell into a much deeper sleep than before. When she woke up, she felt someone holding her hand. Su Qingsang instinctively wanted to pull her hand back, but she felt something strange in her hand. Chapter 74. She didn't know when a diamond ring had appeared on her hand. Hua Jinyao thought that the ring she had randomly picked out was ugly, so he had thrown it into a corner after the incident. And now he was holding her hand with one hand and slipping the ring on her finger with the other. "You're awake?" Hua Jinyao looked like he was asking for credit. Su Qingsang blinked and looked at the diamond ring. She couldn't come back to her senses for a moment. The ring looked like it was at least 5 carats, right? The pink diamond was cut into the shape of a heart. The design was simple and elegant, and it shone brightly in the room. Su Qingsang blinked again and asked, "Did you buy it? Do you like it?" Hua Jinyao asked again. Su Qingsang sat up, raised her hand, and looked at it for a long time. She still couldn't believe it. "Did you buy it?" "Uh-huh." Hua Jinyao's face was full of flattery. "How much did it cost?" Although she was the illegitimate daughter of the Su family, she wasn't ignorant. Not much. Only a few tens of millions. However, he felt that it was still a little small. It wasn't the right time to say that. "How much is not much?" "Just a few thousand." Hua Jinyao looked at Su Qingsang and suddenly held her hand. "You don't think it's real, do you? Isn't it? The quality of this diamond looked so good. Could it be fake?" "Of course not." Hua Jinyao grinned, showing his white teeth. "It's fake." "Fake? Yes." Hua Jinyao sounded a little guilty when he said that. "It only cost a few thousand." "A few thousand?" Su Qingsang raised her hand and looked at the diamond ring. She couldn't believe that it was only a few thousand. "Honey," Hua Jinyao put his arm around her waist. "Although it only cost a few thousand, it took me a long time to pick it out. After all, there aren't many rings that are so realistic and beautiful. Indeed, it was so fake that it looked like the real one. No wonder so many people couldn't tell the difference. It's only a few thousand, but it still cost me half a month's salary." Hua Jinyao moved his face closer to hers. Honey, you won't mind that I bought you a fake ring, will you? Why would I? Su Qing didn't like jewelry very much. I can't wear this often. I need to go to work. When entering the operating room, he was not allowed to wear any jewelry. I know, but I want you to wear it normally. Only by wearing it all the time could those ignorant people see clearly that she was taken. All right, I got it. As she spoke, Su Qing was about to take off the ring, but Hua Jinyao quickly held her hand. What are you doing? Nothing. Su Qing looked at him with confusion. I have to do the laundry and tidy up the room later. Take it off first. No need. Hua Jinyao smiled and said, Your hands are so beautiful. How could I let you clean up the room? I've already called the hourly worker. She'll be here soon. Su Qing looked at him. She had no problem with hiring part-time workers. When she was busy, she didn't have time to take care of the cleanliness of the house. However, Hua Jinyao's arrangement surprised her. Normally, this guy had just found a job. Even if he didn't lack money, shouldn't he be frugal? But he bought a gift for Qiu Yanba and a diamond ring for her as a gift when he returned home last time. That would make him stop her when she said she wanted to do something. Although he was good to her, why did she feel that something was wrong? All right, you're awake now. Let's go eat. Hua Jinyao reached out to pull her up. Su Qing looked at his hands. His slender fingers had distinct joints. They were a pair of very beautiful hands. She looked at Hua Jinyao, who didn't seem to know how to do housework. Thinking about everything that had happened since the first day she met him, Su Qing began to feel curious for the first time. Chapter 75. Hua Jinyao noticed Su Qing's hesitation after taking 2 steps. He turned to look at her and asked, What's wrong? Su Qing shook her head gently and insisted on taking off the ring. Hua Jinyao helped her put it back on again. What's wrong? You don't like it? No. Su Qing looked at Hua Jinyao's face and seemed to be thinking about what to say. I think it's too much. Why did you buy such a big diamond ring? Didn't you think about how ostentatious it is? Whether the ring was real or fake, it was too ostentatious to wear. Hua Jinyao scratched his head and said, Don't you women like the bigger the ring, the better? The brighter the diamond, the better? It was not easy to find such a big pink diamond with such a good color. She didn't like it at all? Who said that? Su Qing didn't want to argue with him. Okay, I've received your kind intentions. I'd better put this away. It's really not suitable. Hua Jinyao watched Su Qing put the ring, which he had specially ordered in Paris for more than 80 million yuan, into the drawer of the dressing table. The corners of his mouth twitched. Honey, okay, let's go eat. Honey. Hua Jinyao grabbed her hand, and the grievance on his face became more obvious. You really don't dislike me for buying a fake one? Su Qing's forehead twitched. Forget it. She was crazy to think that this man had another identity. In her eyes, Hua Jinyao was like a big golden retriever. It really isn't. Hua Jinyao still seemed unhappy. Su Qing couldn't bear to see him like this, so she glared at him and left the room. After dinner, Hua Jinyao took Su Qing out to go shopping. Su Qing didn't want to move. You can either go for a walk with me or wear that ring. Hua Jinyao was being shameless. Su Qing was so angry that she almost laughed. Who would do that? I told you, your ring is too big. It's too ostentatious to wear it. Even if it was fake, it was still very eye-catching, okay? Then come for a walk with me. Hua Jinyao held her hand and said, We've been married for so long, but we haven't taken a walk together yet. The corners of Su Qing's mouth twitched, and she reluctantly let Hua Jinyao drag her into the room. Her apartment was quite close to the city center. At this time, the two of them had finished eating and were strolling hand in hand on the road near the neighborhood. Around the left corner was a park, and around the right corner was a large shopping mall. Su Qing had moved here for a long time, but she had never walked around the area. Now that Hua Jinyao was holding her hand to go shopping, she was a little interested. Qing, this is a nice dress. Go ahead and try it. When the two of them walked past the window of a boutique, Hua Jinyao stopped and pointed at a dress in the shop. No, I have clothes. She was not particular about food and clothing. Try it on. Hua Jinyao pulled her in. I think it will look good on you. Su Qing glanced at the logo on the door, then glanced at Hu Jinyao. Come. She couldn't resist his enthusiasm, so she followed him into the room to try on the clothes. It was a black lace dress. Su Qingsang was gentle and beautiful, so she really didn't think such a sexy dress was suitable for her. But Hu Jinyao insisted, so she had tried on. Hu Jinyao was waiting outside. He stood up when he saw her come out. The black dress was mysterious, and the lace was sexy. The combination of the two made Su Qingsang look completely different from before. I'll take this one. Hu Jinyao looked at her with admiration. Su Qingsang turned around uncomfortably and looked at Hu Jinyao in the mirror. Does it really look good? The dress was too tight, and she was not used to it. Very good. The shop assistant agreed with Hu Jinyao's words. He took out another dress and handed it to her. Try this one on too. I don't think that's necessary. The dress was bright red. Su Qingsang never liked to wear too colorful clothes. Try it on. It's free anyway. Chapter 76. Noticing that Su Qingsang was looking at him, he shoved the dress into her hands. I'm going to take a call. Go try it on. He looked a little strange, but Su Qingsang didn't think too much about it. She took the dress and went into the fitting room. When she came out, Hu Jinyao had already gone outside to make a call. She rarely wore bright red, especially when she worked in a hospital. Her gaze landed on a white dress that was tailored elegantly. She reached out her hand to take it. At the same time, her other hand touched the dress. Su Qingsang was stunned. The person was looking at her too. Su Qingsang. The disdainful voice was full of disdain. The person standing in front of her was Qiu Yanba's sister, Qiu Junjio. Su Qingsang didn't see Qiu Junjio at the Qiu family's banquet the day before yesterday. She heard that she was abroad. Was she back now? There was another woman standing next to Qiu Junjio. She was quite pretty with delicate makeup. She didn't seem to be interested in the scene in front of her. Xianyao, what do you think of this dress? Qiu Junjio wanted to take the dress off, only to find that Su Qingsang's hand was still on it. She glanced at her. What? Aren't you going to let go? She wanted to take the dress, but Su Qingsang didn't let go. Sorry, I saw it first. Su Qingsang. Qiu Junjio snorted. What? Are you brave now? You dare to go against me? Miss Qiu, be reasonable. I saw this dress first. It was just a dress. She didn't really want it, but she really didn't like Qiu Junjio's tone and attitude. So what? Can you afford it? Qiu Junjio thought for a moment and suddenly laughed. I heard you got married. Which family in Lin City are you from? The Zheng family? The Luo family? Or the Song family? Or the Chong family? As a person, he had to be clear about his own status. What? Do you think you're the crown prince just because you were the dragon robe? Su Qingsang had gotten used to the contempt in her words over the years. She had no intention of paying attention. He Xianyao, who was behind Qiu Junjio, asked, Junjio, who is she? Let me introduce you. Isn't my brother engaged to the eldest daughter of the Su family, Su Peijian? She is the illegitimate daughter of the Su family, Su Qingsang. When she mentioned illegitimate daughter, she deliberately raised her voice, as if she was afraid that others would not know. Su Qingsang had heard this kind of ridicule many times before. At this moment, he didn't feel anything when he heard it. What? Aren't you going to let go? Qiu Junjio arrogantly asked Su Qingsang to let go of her hand. The shop assistants who were watching this scene did not dare to say a word. Su Qingsang looked at Qiu Junjio for a while and was about to withdraw her hand. Another big hand picked up the dress and put it in Su Qingsang's hand. Go try on the clothes. Su Qingsang looked at Hu Jinyao. His face was calm, as if he hadn't heard the words illegitimate daughter. Who are you? Qiu Junjio didn't know Hu Jinyao. She didn't look happy that the clothes she had her eyes on had been snatched away. Hu Jinyao ignored her and turned to look at the shop assistant behind him. I thought a shop like yours should be very classy. Why do you even let barking dogs in? Su Qingsang almost choked on her own saliva. Qiu Junjio took a step forward, her chest heaving with anger. Who are you? Who are you calling a dog? Chapter 77. Su Qingsang was speechless. She had already seen Hu Jinyao's fighting ability. His mouth was so sharp that she couldn't even handle it sometimes. It felt good to see Chiu Junjio's flustered and exasperated look. She realized that she seemed to have changed. Go try on the clothes. Hua Jinyao completely ignored the furious Chiu Junjio. Wrap them up if you like them. Who are you? It was the first time Chiu Junjio had encountered such a situation. She was furious. Who are you? What does it have to do with you? What does it have to do with me? You are barking at my wife. What if you scare her? Su Qing-sang wanted to laugh again because of the word barking. Looking at Chiu Junjio's almost twisted face, she hid her smile by lowering her head. If Chiu Junjio saw her laughing at her, she was afraid that she would be in big trouble. She really didn't want to confront her for the time being. Your wife? Chiu Junjio didn't think that she couldn't see her laughing at her with her head lowered. Chiu Junjio heard that Su Qing-sang was married, but she didn't expect her to marry such an outstanding man. How could an illegitimate daughter like Su Qing-sang find such an outstanding man? He must be a gigolo. Are you her man? Is there a problem? Do you know who she is? He was so handsome, but he wasn't from the upper class of Lin City. If he wasn't a gigolo, who else could he be? Maybe he thought that the Su family was rich and wanted to use Su Qing-sang to get close to them. She's just a member of the Su family. Hua Jinyao's expression changed. I know who she is, but you ran out without washing your mouth. Aren't you afraid that the stench will affect others? What did you say? Chiu Junjio's face was so ugly that it looked like it was about to become ferocious. Hua Jinyao ignored her and turned to look at Su Qing-sang. Go try them on if you like them. Try a few more. Su Qing-sang glanced at him and leaned close to him. She whispered, quit while you're ahead. She didn't care about the marriage between the Su family and the Chiu family, but she didn't want to be on the opposite side. Hua Jinyao acted as if he didn't hear her. He patted her shoulder and let her enter the fitting room. Then he turned to look at Chiu Junjio. If your ears are bad, go see a doctor. If your mouth is dirty, go disinfect it. Those in the know would say that you're a human, but those who don't would think that you're a bug. When had Chiu Junjio ever suffered such humiliation? She was so angry that she took out her phone to make a call. Just as she took out her phone, He Xianyao, who was behind her, suddenly stepped forward. Brother Jinyao? Are you Brother Jinyao? Chiu Junjio even forgot to make the call. She turned around and looked at He Xianyao. Xianyao, what are you talking about? He Xianyao was a new friend she met during her recent trip abroad. She was from Rong City, and the He family of Rong City was quite influential. This time, she used her brother's birthday as an excuse to invite her over. Although she didn't make it to Chiu Yanba's birthday party, He Xianyao still promised her that she would stay in Lin City for a few days before going back. Chiu Junjio couldn't understand He Xianyao's expression. She actually knew Su Qing-sang's husband. Hua Jinyao glanced at He Xianyao. He looked familiar, but he couldn't recall where he had seen him before. Brother Jinyao, is that really you? He Xianyao had been studying abroad, but before she went abroad, she visited the Hua family several times. Of course, she knew Hua Jinyao. To her, no other man in Rong City was good enough for her. The only person she wanted to marry and be with was Hua Jinyao. Chapter 78. He Xianyao wholeheartedly wanted to marry Hua Jinyao. She had visited the Hua family many times in the past few years. She was beautiful and had a sweet tongue. Mrs. Hua was usually a cold person. She was also quite friendly to her. The He family and the Hua family had business dealings. She had always felt that she was the best match for Hua Jinyao. She was disappointed for a long time when she didn't see Hua Jinyao in Rong City. That was why she agreed to come to Lin City. She didn't expect to meet Hua Jinyao in Rong City, but in Lin City. She didn't dare to recognize him at first. After all, she hadn't seen Hua Jinyao for 2 years. But now that she saw Hua Jinyao's face, how could she not recognize him? Brother Jinyao, I didn't expect to see you here. He Xianyao was not as calm as she was a moment ago. She was just watching from the sidelines. She looked shy like a young girl. Hua Jinyao glanced at her. She looked familiar. He immediately remembered who the woman in front of him was, but he didn't recognize her. Who are you? Brother Jinyao. I'm Xianyao. He Xianyao. Don't you remember? I'm the youngest daughter of the He family. You've worked with my brother before. He Xianyao blushed and looked at Hua Jinyao with her eyes full of charm. If it was another man, he might have been tempted. But Hu Jinyao wasn't an ordinary man. He Xianyao. He knew. She was Yi Xuankai's sister, the only daughter of the He family. Yes. Don't you remember me? Annie Hua said that our names were both pronounced Yao. She said we were destined to be together. Although the characters were different, the pronunciation was the same. She had always regarded this as a special fate between her and Hu Jinyao. Hu Jinyao's mouth twitched. There were only a few commonly used Chinese characters. There were more than 1 billion people in the country. How many people had the same name? I don't remember. Hu Jinyao didn't want to talk to He Xianyao anymore. This sudden turn of events left Xiao Junjiao dumbfounded. She didn't know what was going on. Of course, she knew He Xianyao. Her family background was no less than hers. However, such a person treated Hu Jinyao with such an attitude. She looked at Hu Jinyao. Why hadn't she heard that the man Su Qingsang married was very powerful? Didn't you say that you also married a small clerk? How could I not remember? He Xianyao didn't want to give up. It wasn't easy for her to meet Hu Jinyao here. She had to make a deeper impression on him. Seeing that Hu Jinyao was about to leave, she subconsciously wanted to hold his hand. She recalled the conversation between Xiao Junjiao and Hu Jinyao. Jinyao, did you just say that you're married? How could this be? The upper class of Rong City hadn't heard anything about such a big event. Yi Xianyao thought about Su Qingsang's face. She wasn't particularly pretty. It was just above average. Why? Why does brother Jinyao want to be with such a woman? Yes, I'm married. Hu Jinyao could tell that Yi Xianyao was interested in him. So what? Why so sudden? The shyness on Yi Xuanyao's face disappeared. Her pale little face was full of injuries. Is it your wife? Do Uncle Hua and Annie Hua know? Yi Xianyao thought about what Xiao Junjiao had said about Su Qingsang's identity. Do they know who she is? Chapter 79. Hu Jinyao's straightforward and impolite attitude made Yi Xuanyao's face turn pale again. Brother Jinyao, you. Su Qingsang had already changed her clothes and came out. She stood there, slim and graceful. The black suit suited her very well. It made her look more sexy and less delicate than usual. The white suit in front of her also suited her very well. Su Qingsang's figure was not bad, although not particularly tall. Her figure was slim and perfectly proportioned. Su Qingsang heard a dispute outside, but she didn't hear it clearly. She saw Hu Jinyao walking towards her and Yi Xuanyao's pale face. She didn't know what was going on. Very pretty. Hu Jinyao didn't give her a chance to talk to the two weird women. He held her waist and let her look at herself in the mirror. How about I wrap all 3 of them? I don't think that's necessary. The price of these clothes was more than 5 figures. She was just a doctor who had just started working. Why would she need such nice clothes? Just wrap them up if you like them. You? Su Qingsang looked at Hu Jinyao and then at the environment in front of her. She didn't want to hurt him, so she tiptoed and whispered into Hu Jinyao's ear. Didn't you just start working? Just buy them for a year. Her voice was very soft, and her hot breath brushed against Hu Jinyao's ear. He was a little tempted. He almost couldn't hear what Su Qingsang said. When he realized what she meant, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He put his arm around Su Qingsang's waist and whispered in her ear, I went on a business trip a few days ago. The deal was good. The boss agreed to give me a bonus. Well, you can buy them if you like them. It's okay. Su Qingsang turned to look at him. The flattery in Hu Jinyao's eyes was too obvious. For a moment, she felt as if she had been entangled by a golden retriever. Save for a rainy day. Be thrifty, don't you know? As soon as he got his bonus, he spent it all. She was buying a ring and clothes. What if she needed money in the future? I know. I have you. Hu Jinyao whispered into her ear. The money I earn is for my wife to spend. I'll be happy to spend it all. His warm breath brushed against her ear. Su Qingsang remembered how he had talked to her like this last night when he had done it with her. She felt uncomfortable and took a step back. I'll go change my clothes. Hu Jinyao had a smile in his eyes. Su Qingsang was good at everything, but she was too thin-skinned. It didn't matter. He would do it a few more times next time. When she got used to it, she would get used to it. Yi Xuanyao's eyes turned red when she saw how close they were. Brother Jinyao. When Su Qingsang entered the fitting room, she heard the voice and turned around. She had heard it just now, but she thought she had heard it wrong through the door. Hui Jinyao's face darkened. He turned to look at He Xianyao. Who are you calling? Brother Jinyao, how can you do this to me? She had liked him for so many years and waited for him for so many years. Was this how he treated her? Jinyao? Su Qingsang didn't go to get changed. Instead, she stood in front of Hui Jinyao and asked, Do you know each other? How could Qiu Junjio's friend know Hui Jinyao? No. Hui Jinyao looked calm and looked at He Xianyao as if she was a stranger. I don't know you, and please call me Mr. Hua. Brother Jinyao? He Xianyao looked hurt. What are you talking about? Jinyao. It didn't seem like she didn't know him. Su Qingsang looked at Hui Jinyao and then at He Xianyao. Chapter 80. Hui Jinyao turned around and looked at Su Qingsang. The smile returned to his face. Nothing. She mistook me for someone else. Brother Jinyao. How could she mistake him for someone else? He Xianyao took a step forward, as if to prove that she was telling the truth. Hui Jinyao tilted his head and glanced at her. His eyes were cold and devoid of warmth. It only took him a second to change his smiling face into a cold one. Miss, please don't call me that. I said I don't know you. You, Xianyao. Qiu Junjio seemed to understand what was going on. Please leave. Your behavior has interfered with my business, Hui Jinyao said bluntly. He Xianyao didn't expect that after studying for 2 years, she would end up like this. Her eyes were red. She burst into tears, turned around, and ran out. Xianyao, Qiu Junjio glanced at Hui Jinyao and Su Qingsang and hurried out. Su Qingsang was left looking at Hui Jinyao inquiringly. You really don't know her? Of course I don't know her. But they work together. Well, they didn't really know each other. Why did she call your name if she doesn't know you? Does she know that your name is Jinyao? She mistook me for someone else. Why are you calling me so intimately? Big brother Jinyao? She felt goosebumps all over her body. Hui Jinyao looked at her and suddenly put his face close to hers. What? Is Qingsang jealous? I'm not. Who will be jealous of him? I'm not jealous. Why do you smell so sour? Hui Jinyao was back to his usual carefree self. His low voice was a little playful. The smile in his eyes was so obvious, and there was a hint of teasing in them. Su Qingsang couldn't help but step back. She couldn't stand the teasing and curious eyes of the surrounding shop assistants. I'm going to change. She quickly went into the fitting room, only to find that she seemed to have been tricked by Hui Jinyao again. He still didn't tell her why the woman knew him and called him Brother Jinyao. When Su Qingsang came out, Hui Jinyao had asked someone to wrap up the clothes she had just tried on. She was really not used to this. Even when she was shopping with Shermeng Wan, she wasn't this crazy. Moreover, her concept of consumption was similar to Shermeng Wan's. She didn't care about famous brands. She only wanted comfort. However, Hui Jinyao was quite interested. After shopping for clothes, he wanted to go shopping for shoes. Su Qingsang stayed in the hospital every day and only liked to wear flat shoes. There were some high-heeled shoes, but not many. Seeing that Hui Jinyao was so interested in shopping with her, she had a feeling that she would be a wet blanket if she didn't go with him. Su Qingsang had forgotten about her encounter with He Xianyao. That little doubt was naturally suppressed in his heart. By the time Qiu Junjio reached home, the rest of the Qiu family had already gone to bed. Qiu Yanba had just returned from outside. Qiu Junjio's eyes lit up when she saw him. Brother, did you go out with Sister Peijian? Yes. Qiu Yanba nodded. Su Peijian was his fiancée. Naturally, he had to spend more time with her. Brother, do you know who Su Qingsang's husband is? Su Qingsang? Qiu Yanba thought about the day he saw Su Qingsang in Hui Jinyao's arms, cuddling up to him shyly. He couldn't tell what he was feeling, so he answered absent-mindedly, What's wrong? Isn't he just a small clerk? A small clerk? Are you sure? Qiu Junjio thought about He Xuanyao's reaction that night. Chapter 81. Qiu Junjio told him what had happened that night. She looked at Qiu Yanba's increasingly serious face and said, Brother, do you think Su Qingsang did it on purpose? Did she deliberately not let others know who her man was? She thought it was impossible. If Hua Jinyao's identity was really extraordinary, why would he like Su Qingsang? He Xianyao was much better than Su Qingsang, whether it was her family background, appearance, or anything else. Qiu Yanba ignored his sister's words. He thought of Old Master Qiu and Old Master Li's repeated questions. He Xianyao was from Rong City, and Hua Jinyao said he had nothing to do with the Hua family. If Hua Jinyao was really from the Hua family, then why did he suddenly appear in Lin City? Brother, Qiu Junjiu said something else, but Qiu Yanba didn't have time to listen. He looked at Qiu Junjiu and said, Junjiu, listen to me. Stay away from Su Qingsang next time. Why? Qiu Junjiu didn't like hearing that. She and Su Peijian were good friends. Although Su Peijian had never said anything to hurt Su Qingsang, having such a thing in the house was so annoying. Nothing. Anyway, you don't have to worry about it. After saying that, Qiu Yanba hurried out the door. When Su Qingsang opened her eyes, her waist was still a little sore. She turned over and saw Hua Jinyao's enlarged face. It had been a few days, but she was still not used to it. She had to go to work today. Yesterday, she had repeatedly asked Hua Jinyao not to touch her. In the end, this guy was shameless and said he only wanted to do it once. But was his time a normal time? Morning. Wife. Hua Jinyao got up very early. He had already come back from his morning exercise. He had just taken a shower and felt refreshed. He could still smell the shower gel. Su Qingsang ignored him. Her waist was still sore and her body didn't feel well. Hadn't this guy touched a woman in 800 years? Wife. Hua Jinyao didn't care about her cold face at all. There was another smack on her cheek. Why didn't you say good morning to me? Su Qingsang's eyebrows twitched. She had begun to ignore the fact that he tended to be a large dog from time to time. Wife. Seeing that she was about to get up, Hua Jinyao quickly pressed his body against hers to prevent her from moving. You haven't said good morning to me yet. Good morning. Can you get up now? Su Qingsang's voice was a little hoarse, which made Hua Jinyao feel inexplicably sexy. No. He shamelessly put all his limbs on her. You haven't given me a good morning kiss yet. Su Qingsang couldn't take it anymore. Before she lost control of her anger, she pushed the man in front of her away and got up. Wife. Behind her, Hua Jinyao looked at her with great sadness. Shut up. Su Qingsang glared at him, not forgetting to wrap herself in the sheet. Hua Jinyao rubbed his chin and enjoyed the look of anger on Su Qingsang's face. Honey, you don't actually have to cover it up. I've seen every part of you before. Shut up, he added. My wife is so beautiful. Even when you're angry, you're still so beautiful. Her eyes were filled with life, and she looked exceptionally spirited. Hua Jinyao. Su Qingsang couldn't help but glare at him again, but her face was red. The burning heat lasted until she entered the bathroom. Don't mind it, don't mind it. This man was just like that. He was glib-tongued and glib. She didn't want to take it seriously. Looking at herself in the mirror, Su Qingsang was stunned by the figure in it. Chapter 82. Hua Jinyao sensed that something was wrong with Su Qingsang. After coming out of the bathroom, she kept her head down, as if she was thinking about something. What's wrong, honey? Hua Jinyao stepped forward and put his arm around Su Qingsang's waist. As soon as he approached, Su Qingsang thought of the entanglement between them these past few days. She moved to the side without a trace. Nothing. Are you unhappy? He didn't do anything to her just now, did he? Hua Jinyao reached out to put his arm around her shoulder again. I'm late for work. Su Qingsang pushed his hand away. Her obvious resistance stunned Hua Jinyao for a moment, but only for a moment. Honey, are you angry? No, you're still denying it. Hua Jinyao stood in front of her. You are angry. Hua Jinyao. Su Qingsang didn't realize until this morning that she seemed to be indulging Hua Jinyao more and more. She began to get used to his existence. Apart from being surprised by the changes in her body, she was also a little frightened. She was used to staying in a fixed circle and living safely in this circle. But now, Hua Jinyao had become the biggest variable. He made her feel unsafe. Honey, tell me, why are you unhappy? Hua Jinyao reached out to hug her again. Su Qing-sang wouldn't let him. I'm really not unhappy. She took a step back and looked at Hu Jinyao. I'm late for work. She walked past Hu Jinyao, but he stood in front of her again. You haven't had breakfast yet. Su Qing-sang turned to look at the table. There were all kinds of breakfast Hu Jinyao bought. These days, whenever he was at home, he bought breakfast. Su Qing-sang pressed her lips into a straight line. In the end, she couldn't refuse Hu Jinyao's kindness. Not only did she eat the breakfast he bought, but she also asked him to drive her to work like before. She sat in the car and looked out of the window in silence. The fast traffic made her feel a little uneasy. How was she going to face Hu Jinyao, this husband who appeared out of nowhere? When they arrived at the hospital, Su Qing-sang almost couldn't wait to get out of the car, but Hu Jinyao held her hand again. Honey, you seem to have forgotten something. Hu Jinyao. She knew what it was, but today she couldn't. Hu Jinyao gave her a heavy kiss on the cheek. Goodbye kiss. Hu Jinyao smiled like a cat who had successfully stolen a fish. Hu Jinyao. Su Qing-sang looked around, afraid that her colleagues would see her. He didn't seem to mind at all. Instead, he moved his face closer and said, I want one too. That's enough. My wife is so stingy. Hu Jinyao looked at her with a sad look, as if he had been wronged. Before she could react, he leaned over and gave her another kiss on the other cheek. All right, you're stingy. I'm very generous. Hu Jinyao waved his hand and grinned, showing his white teeth. Remember to miss me. This person, seeing him like that, Su Qing-sang was not angry at all. She could only glare at him and quickly get out of the car. She didn't know if Hu Jinyao's words had an effect. Hu Jinyao's face flashed across her mind from time to time. Ignoring the slight fluctuation in her heart, she professionally put away the fetal heart instrument and looked at the pregnant woman in front of her. For now, everything seems normal. I've already told you what to pay attention to last time. It's just that you're getting older, so it's better to exercise properly. Thank you, Dr. Su. After hearing the precautions, the pregnant woman thanked her profusely and left. Su Qing-sang called out, Next! Chapter 83. Su Yusin was only 17 years old this year. Li Qianxue and Su Changhui had him when Su Peijian was 8 years old. He was in his first year of high school and went to Lin City's first middle school. Because it was a little far from home, he had been living on campus. Su Qing-sang occasionally went back to the Su family, but couldn't meet Su Yusin. The two of them were sister and brother, but they had few opportunities to see each other. She really didn't know why Su Yusin was looking for her. Sister. What made Su Qing-sang's eyes pop out? Su Yusin actually called her sister. What's the matter? Su Qing-sang looked at her nominal brother. She was in the obstetrics and gynecology department. Why did he come here for no reason? Su Yusin lowered his head. His face, which was somewhat similar to Li Qianxue's, was not delicate. Instead, he was very handsome. He was only 17 years old, but he was already 1.8 meters tall. At this moment, he lowered his head with a guilty look on his face. What happened? Su Qing-sang knew the ability of the Su family and the strength of the Li family. There was nothing that Su Yusin couldn't tell his parents. You didn't get into trouble, did you? It was very strange to say. Su Yusin was Su Qinghui's only son. He was quite strict with his son. The most favored person in the Su family was Su Peijian. Su Peijian grew up. No matter what she did, Su Changhui couldn't bear to touch her, let alone teach her a lesson. But Su Yusin, Su Changhui had been watching him very closely since he was a child. Whether it was homework or other things, he was very demanding. Su Yusin didn't know how to say it twice. He gritted his teeth, turned around, and pulled in a figure outside the door. It was a little girl who looked like she was only 16 or 17 years old. She's my girlfriend. She's pregnant. Su Qing-sang almost choked on her own saliva. What did you say? She's pregnant. Su Yusin's face was very red, and the little girl's face was a little pale. Aren't you a doctor? Help her abort the child. Su Qing-sang stood up and closed the door with her hand. Su Yusin, are you crazy? I'm not crazy. Su Yusin gritted his teeth. I'm only 17 years old. You're only 17. If you don't want to be a father so early, why did you get her pregnant so early? Su Qing-sang was furious. Do you know how harmful it is to your health To have an abortion? You. She swallowed the rest of her words when she saw the little girl's pale face. Su Qing-sang took a deep breath to calm herself down. Does Dad know? How is this possible? If he knew, he would beat me to death. She knew very well how strict Su Changhui was with him. Su Qing-sang was furious. She looked at the little girl and said, "Do you want to beat the child too?" The girl was quite pretty. She kept her head down and only answered in a very low voice after hearing Su Qing-sang's words. "I'm still in school." Su Qing-sang didn't know what to say. She looked at the people in front of her and felt that they had completely subverted her understanding. The two of them were still children, not even adults. "But, sister, if you help me this time, I'll owe you one." Su Yusin was normal now, but Su Qing-sang only felt upset. The Su family's parents didn't know, but what about the girl's parents? Do your parents know? Chapter 84. Su Qing-sang looked at the two young men in front of her and sighed helplessly. Have you thought it through? It's a life we're talking about. I have. The two of them spoke in unison, so Su Qing-sang could only agree. There was an empty operating theater today. She sat back in her seat to write the bill. Take her for a checkup and pay the fee. You have money on you, don't you? Yes, I do. Su Yusin nodded, took the list, and looked at Su Qing-sang. For the first time, he showed a sincere smile to this sister who had never been friendly to him. Sister, thank you. Don't thank me yet. She looked at the little girl. You're still young. After the operation, you should stay in a hospital for a few days to rest. I have to go to school. I'll write a leave slip for you. Take it and apply for leave. If she didn't take good care of her body, it would be difficult for her to have children in the future. You don't want that either, do you? The little girl stopped talking. Su Qing-sang sighed and asked someone to arrange the operating room. The little girl followed Su Yusin out. Su Qing-sang felt a headache when she got up to get ready. Amidst the headache, her body suddenly froze in place. She had been with Hu Jinyao for the past few days, but he didn't seem to have taken any protective measures. And these few days were her safe period, but what about in the future? Was she ready to be a mother so early? Was she ready to have a child so early? No, she should ask herself, does she have the confidence to take on the responsibility of a mother? Bringing a life into this world just like that? Su Qing-sang's lips were pursed into a straight line, and the struggle lasted no more than a few seconds. She prescribed herself a long-acting contraceptive. Su Qing-sang didn't know the girl's name until the operation was over. Bai Jihan. What a nice name. Su Qing-sang prescribed her medicine and arranged a ward for her. Then, he gave her a leave slip. Help her ask for leave. About a week, at least. She turned her face to look at Bai Jihan. Have a good rest. Don't worry, I'll ask the nurse to come here more often. You can call me if you have any questions. Thank you, sister. You're welcome. Su Qing-sang walked out of the ward, followed by Su Yusin. He used to dislike Su Qing-sang and didn't like her. After all, no one would like their father to have an illegitimate daughter. Standing in front of Su Qing-sang, she was a little shy, as if she didn't know what to do. Sister, is there anything else? Su Qing-sang seemed to remember something. All right, you should be in school now, right? Are you going back to school today? Su Yusin was a little embarrassed. Help me get a sick leave certificate too. I want to stay here and take care of her all day tomorrow. The look in Su Qing-sang's eyes changed a little. She didn't expect her brother to be so responsible. Is one day enough? Enough. Also, don't tell Dad about this. Don't worry. I know. Su Qing-sang had originally planned to leave, but she couldn't help but say, Yusin, I know you've grown up. There are some things that you should also know. I don't object to you falling in love or finding a girlfriend. But he still remembered to protect the girl next time. After all, whether it's abortion or childbirth, it's not something you should experience at your age. Su Yusin's face was full of embarrassment, but in the end, he did not refute. I understand. I'll pay attention next time. Go. Su Qing-sang was busy, and it was almost time to get off work. Before leaving, she went to the ward again, and Bai Jihan was already asleep. Su Yusin was watching over her. Su Qing-sang asked someone to send them lunch boxes and asked the restaurant to send a cup of health soup. She told Su Yusin to let Bai Jihan drink it, and then left. As soon as she left the hospital, she saw Hu Jinyao coming to pick her up. Chapter 85. Su Qingsang didn't know why, but she inexplicably felt a little guilty. She didn't know why she felt guilty. She wasn't sure if Hu Jinyao would agree with her decision. Her decision was unilateral, and she didn't tell Hu Jinyao. But the fact was that Hu Jinyao also had the right to know and participate. He was her husband, and he also had the right to decide whether to have children, not her unilateral contraception. She didn't want to have children. But the fact was that she really didn't want to have children. She could accept marrying a man. But to bring a life into this world, Hu Jinyao had already gotten out of the car and very considerately opened the door for her. Sometimes, Su Qingsang really didn't understand where Hu Jinyao's enthusiasm came from. "Honey, what's wrong?" Hu Jinyao stepped forward to put his arms around her waist, and Su Qingsang quickly took a step back. There were people coming and going in the hospital, and she really didn't want to be the center of attention. "Are you not feeling well?" Hu Jinyao put his hand on Su Qingsang's forehead and didn't find anything unusual. "Are you too tired at work?" His enthusiasm made Su Qingsang uncomfortable. She was used to being cold-hearted, but she couldn't stand Hu Jinyao's enthusiasm. "I'm a little tired." She had performed Bai Jihan's surgery herself. She could guarantee that the process was smooth. But she felt a little sad. A little life, which should have been the life of her nephew or niece, ended in her hands. Hu Jinyao was extremely sensitive to the fact that Su Qingsang's mood at this time was not high, completely different from the low mood in the morning. In the morning, she was not in a good mood. She looked more helpless and evasive. But now she was tired, really tired. What happened? Nothing. Su Qingsang refused to answer this question and turned to get into the car. Hu Jinyao didn't ask further and calmly followed her into the car. "Honey, what are we eating tonight?" At first, Su Qingsang found it weird that Hu Jinyao kept calling her wife, but now she was used to it. He could call her whatever he wanted. It was just a form of address anyway. Whatever. Hu Jinyao leaned over with obvious dissatisfaction on his face. "Can't you just be casual? What can I do if you're always casual? Then we'll go wherever you want to eat." Su Qingsang was not particular about food. Before she officially started working, she once went to a remote area as a support doctor for an intern. The environment there was even worse and more bitter. And this was only in China. Some medical teams that went overseas not only had a poor environment, but they were also not used to the food and accommodation. It's easier to lose your life. The more she saw, the lower her expectations of life. "Let's go eat Japanese food, okay?" "No." Su Qingsang instinctively didn't like it. "What about Korean cuisine?" "No." "Thai cuisine?" "Can't you think of someone from China?" Hu Jinyao could tell that Su Qingsang didn't like foreign food. She only liked Chinese food. "Then let's eat Hunan cuisine. I've looked around. There's a Hunan restaurant that just opened. You can even get a discount, all right." Su Qingsang didn't refuse. She was actually a little dizzy from such a conversation. "Hu Jinyao, you don't have to ask me next time. Just tell me what you like to eat. I'm fine with anything." "How can I do that?" Hu Jinyao's face was serious. He stopped starting the car and said, "You are my wife. Of course, I have to focus on your needs first. I have to like what you like too." Chapter 86. Su Qingsang didn't know what to say, but she couldn't bring herself to hate Hu Jinyao's glib tongue. She could only blame this man for having such a good appearance. Handsome people seemed to be forgiven for anything they did, not to mention the fact that he was looking at her so intently and confessing to her. Su Qingsang's heart skipped a beat. She had to turn around and look out of the window. As for Hu Jinyao, she wanted to ignore him for some reason. He Xinyao didn't stay in Lin City for a day. After being criticized by Hu Jinyao, she was annoyed and booked the fastest flight back to Rong City. Yao He Shinkai came back from a party with friends that night and saw He Xianyao dragging her luggage home. "Didn't you go to Lin City with your friends? Why are you back so soon?" "Brother." He Xianyao had been suppressing her emotions along the way, but now it was obvious that she could no longer suppress them. "What's wrong?" Yao. Brother. He Xianyao threw herself into He Xuankai's arms and burst into tears. What's wrong? Who bullied you? His sister was 7 or 8 years younger than him. He had been the one to take care of his sister when they were little, so they had a special relationship. He Xianyao tried to control her voice. Brother Jinyao, Hua Jinyao? He Xiankai frowned. If he remembered correctly, the Hua family member wasn't in Rong City recently. It's him, he Xianyao sobbed and looked at her brother with tears in her eyes. Brother, how could I be wrong? It's him. Why did he pretend not to know me? He Xiankai didn't know what was going on. Could it be that he was busy at the time? Busy? There was a woman with him. I think they got married. Married? That was impossible. He Xuankai's intuition told him it was fake. The Hua family is so important. How could there be no news of Hua Jinyao getting married in Rong City? It's true. He Xianyao was angry at the thought. He really got married. I asked Xiao Junjio. She said Hua Jinyao's wife is an illegitimate daughter. Everyone in Lin City with a bit of prestige knows about it. He Xiankai rubbed his chin and thought about what his sister had said. Illegitimate daughter? This was interesting. Is the Hua family married to Hua Jinyao? Did they know that Hua Jinyao married an illegitimate daughter? Brother, Uncle Hua, and Annie Hua didn't know about this at all. His engagement didn't count at all. I like Brother Jinyao. I want to snatch him away. Xianyao, what are you talking about? She's already married, and you still want to snatch her back? This younger sister of his was getting more and more willful. I want it. He Xianyao was still angry. That woman's family background and appearance are not good enough for Brother Jinyao. I don't believe the Hua family will agree. Auntie Hua valued disciples the most, not to mention that old Master Hua was in the Hua family. They would never agree to Hua Jinyao marrying a woman who didn't belong to his family. Don't worry. Let me think. He Xiankai wasn't an impulsive person. Are you sure the Hua family doesn't know about this? Of course. Otherwise, you can ask around tomorrow. See if the Hua family knows about this. He Xiankai didn't say anything. There were some things that could be verified. Hua Jinyao turned over on the bed and looked in the direction of the bathroom. Su Qing-sang went in to take a shower and didn't come out for a long time. Listening to the noise in the bathroom, Hua Jinyao felt an itch in his heart. He couldn't help but want to go in and find out. Chapter 87. As soon as he finished speaking, the bathroom door opened. Su Qing-sang came out wearing blue cotton pajamas. The style was very conservative. Hua Jinyao looked at her sideways. It seemed that only then did he realize that Su Qing-sang's pajamas were all cotton, and they were basically the kind with long sleeves that tightly wrapped her body. Wasn't she hot? Or was it to guard against him? Whatever. He decided to buy some pajamas tomorrow. He would change out of Su Qing-sang's conservative pajamas. Honey, as soon as Su Qing-sang's body touched the bed, Hua Jinyao leaned over and held her waist. Stop it. Su Qing-sang waved his hand away and looked a little unhappy. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to sleep too. Let's sleep together. Hua Jinyao smiled maliciously. If Su Qing-sang still didn't understand what he wanted to do, she would have wasted her time getting along with him. Stop it. Not today. Why? Hua Jinyao's face suddenly fell. It's not convenient for me. Seeing Hua Jinyao's puzzled face, Su Qing-sang was a little speechless. My relatives are here. Relatives? What relatives? Hua Jinyao finally realized what was going on. He quickly turned around and spread himself on the bed. He looked like he had nothing to live for. Su Qing-sang's usually cold heart wanted to laugh because of Hua Jinyao's expression. Her period had always been punctual. This time it was 2 days early. She didn't know if it was because of the medicine. However, Su Qing-sang really breathed a sigh of relief. Although it was a safe period before, she was really afraid that she would accidentally fall into the trap. She didn't want any accidents at this time. Honey, Hua Jinyao was really depressed. It wasn't easy for him to eat meat. He hadn't eaten this meat a few times, and he couldn't eat it anymore. Stop it. I'm really sleepy. Su Qing-sang thought that she could escape today, but she didn't expect that Hua Jinyao would still carry her. What are you doing? I already said Honey, what are you thinking? I'm just hugging you to sleep. Hua Jinyao felt a little wronged. We're already married. Isn't it normal for me to hug you to sleep? Su Qing-sang realized that she was making a fuss. Hua Jinyao tightened his grip on her waist. My wife, my good wife, you're not my wife. I like to hug you to sleep. The corners of Su Qing-sang's mouth twitched. She knew what was wrong with him, so she simply closed her eyes and ignored him. Hua Jinyao's soft body was in his arms, but he couldn't touch it. This made him even more depressed. How many days? He had to confirm his sentence first. Su Qing-sang was about to fall asleep, so she didn't react for a moment. What do you mean by a few days? Your relative. Hua Jinyao's voice was deep, and he seemed to be gnashing his teeth. How many days does it usually take? The lights had been turned off. In the dark, Su Qing-sang imagined Hua Jinyao's expression at that moment and somehow felt a little happy. Usually 6 days, sometimes longer. Actually, she would have finished in 4 days, but she deliberately said 2 more days. In the darkness, she heard Hua Jinyao's muffled groan. She tried not to laugh. All right, I'm going to bed. Stop bothering me. Hua Jinyao listened to her breathing, which became steady after a while, and felt a little upset. An evil relative. Why would a woman have such a relative? Chapter 88. What about the Hua family? Do they know that Hua Jinyao is married? A grown girl couldn't be kept at home. He Xiankai sighed. If I said I didn't ask about it, you would be mad at me. Brother. He Xianyao was unhappy and shook He Xuankai's arm. Just tell me, does the Hua family know? The Hua family, brother. Seeing his sister so anxious, He Xiankai didn't keep her in suspense. I asked. The Hua family really doesn't know about Hua Jinyao's marriage. They were all from the upper-class business circle of Rong City, so it wasn't difficult for He Xiankai to find out. Not only do they not know, but the Hua family probably doesn't know what Hua Jinyao is doing outside. Then what is he doing? In fact, He Xianyao didn't understand. Hua Jinyao couldn't even handle things in Rong City, so why did he go to Lin City? Hua Jinyao said he was developing his business in Lin City. But I don't think it's that simple. The Hua family was in a complicated situation. Hua Jinyao didn't line up because he wanted to avoid it. But why would Hua Jinyao's parents agree to let him go to Lin City? It was strange. Brother, don't talk about useless things. Just tell me how I can get Hua Jinyao back. That was the point. He Xiankai looked at his sister and sighed helplessly. I have an idea, but you have to promise me. Don't do anything stupid and listen to me. Okay. He Xianyao was willing to do anything as long as she could get Hua Jinyao. About this, hearing He Xuankai's voice, He Xuanyao's eyes finally began to light up. There was a bright smile in her bright eyes. She was determined to get Hua Jinyao. The head nurse, Shun Pinglan, noticed that Su Qing-sang seemed to be in a good mood today. She walked in with a smile on her face. Dr. Su, what's wrong? Something good happened? Su Qing-sang shook her head. Nothing good. Why are you smiling so happily? Su Qing-sang only thought of Hua Jinyao this morning. Men usually got excited in the morning, but it wasn't convenient for her now. She still remembered that last night, she accidentally turned around in Hua Jinyao's arms. In the end, that guy actually had a reaction. She really couldn't take it anymore and wanted to sleep in the guest room. He won't let me. On the other side, he ran to take a cold shower and refused to let go of her. In the end, Hua Jinyao took no less than 3 cold showers that night. Su Qing-sang felt helpless. She was very sure that she hadn't done anything. Have you had many girlfriends before? Although young people were hot-blooded, it was still better for them to control themselves, right? Nope. I only have you. Hua Jinyao hurriedly explained. If he didn't make it clear, people would misunderstand. Then how did you survive the last 30 years? Su Qing-sang couldn't help but want to argue with him. I didn't have you before. Hua Jinyao put his arms around her waist and smiled obsequiously. I have you now. Besides, they had already eaten a sumptuous meal, and now they were asking him to eat vegetables. Wasn't this too inhumane? Su Qing-sang didn't know what to say. This person was really... She said that they should sleep separately, but she refused. Men tend to get excited easily this morning. Chapter 89. Su Qing-sang wanted to tell him to take less cold water. However, she accidentally used too much force when she pulled him. He turned over and fell asleep on her. Fortunately, his hand was placed on her chest. Honey, what did she mean? Su Qing-sang really didn't know what to say when she met his accusatory gaze. She tried to reach out and push him. Get up. I didn't mean to. Honey. Hu Jinyao looked sad. Stop it. Su Qing-sang quickly wanted to get up, but she didn't know that she got up too quickly. She bumped into Hu Jinyao again. What followed was chaos. Su Qing-sang didn't want to recall the process now. She only felt that Hu Jinyao's sad face made her laugh. And he was still looking at her with that kind of gaze until he sent her to the hospital. Now she met the curiosity in Shun Pinglin's eyes and smiled. The pregnant woman in bed 18 has been discharged. She recovered very well. She met me downstairs just now and thanked me. That's because Dr. Su is very responsible to the pregnant woman and the patient. They think you are good. It's my duty. Su Qing-sang nodded and stopped thinking about Hu Jinyao. She put on a white coat and went to see Bai Jihan. Bai Jihan was recovering well and was much more energetic than before. She was the only one left when she saw her. Well, where's Su Yusin? He went back to class, Bai Jihan said in a very low voice. She had just had an abortion and was still a little weak. Only then did Su Qing-sang remember that Su Yusin was still a high school student. She sighed in her heart, told some things to pay attention to, and then left. In the evening, Shi Mingwan came to see her again before it was time to get off work. Qing-sang. Shi Mingwan looked at Su Qing-sang from head to toe and clicked her tongue. Not bad. It seems that marriage has a great impact on you. Look at your rosy face. What are you talking about? My face has always been like this, okay? Su Qing-sang was in good health. She was a doctor and naturally knew the importance of health better than ordinary people. Shi Mingwan chuckled. Are you sure? You look like a completely different person from before you got married. Don't deny it. Okay, you haven't said what it is. She really didn't want to bring the topic back to how she got married. I want to have a meal with you. It's almost National Day. At that time, more and more people would get married. I'm afraid I won't have time to visit you. Isn't that perfect? You can earn a little more. Of course. Shi Mingwan seemed to have thought of something as she said, Oh, right. I remember what happened. What? I saw your brother just now. Shi Mingwan touched her shoulder. Why is he here? Doesn't he go to school? Also, did he come here for you? He's not looking for trouble with you. Is he? What's going on in your head? Even though neither Su Peijian nor Su Yusin liked her. But they wouldn't go so far as to lower themselves to make things difficult for her. Shi Mingwan was not an outsider, and she was very tight-lipped. Su Qing-sang briefly told her about Su Yusin. That's it. I thought he wouldn't come today. I didn't expect him to sneak back here again. He wondered if the school and his family knew about this. Qing-sang, think about it. This is really a big deal. Chapter 90. Mingwan. She was getting more and more ridiculous. Why would she grab hold of Su Yusin's weakness for no reason? Besides, if this matter really got out, Bai Jihan wouldn't be able to get any benefits. She's just a little girl, why? I'm joking. She knew that Su Qing-sang would never do such a thing. I just feel that it's a pity. Mingwan. She knew that Shi Mingwan was crying out for her. But Su Yusin was too young. Who hasn't been young and frivolous? What's more, even though he had done something wrong, at least he didn't throw a sum of money to Bai Jihan and then ignore her like other people in the circle. She had seen many such incidents in the industry. Seriously speaking, Su Yusin was a responsible person. All right, I won't say any more. Let's go eat. Shi Mingwan dragged her outside. The two of them walked out of the hospital gate and were about to walk to the side when Shi Mingwan stopped again. What happened? Shi Mingwan's gaze fell on the man and woman beside her. That man was the one she met last time. At this moment, he had a woman with him. He was carefully supporting the woman as they walked out of the hospital. Mingwan. Su Qing-sang also saw that person. Shi Mingwan gritted her teeth. When she looked at Su Qing-sang again, the corners of her mouth twitched. She knew that she didn't mean what she said. It's okay. Let's go. He kept saying that she had the wrong person. But how could she be mistaken? She had spent so much time with her dear brother. She had always thought that her dear brother had forgotten about her for some special reason. But now she knew that he already had another woman by his side. Let me treat you to dinner. Su Qing-sang couldn't bear to see her friend like this. What? I make more money than you do. My treat. Sure, Mengwan returned to her carefree self. Besides, that person is definitely not my dear brother. I think I got the wrong person last time. Yeah, Su Qing-sang couldn't find any words to comfort her. I believe your big brother won't forget you, and he must be waiting for you somewhere. Don't give up. Yes, don't worry. I won't give up. Sure, Mengwan smiled brightly. Everyone knew that the person she was waiting for would not appear. Only Qing-sang was the best. She always comforted and encouraged her. Qing-sang, you're so nice. AI, why did you get married? Can't you just marry me? Yes, I'll marry you. What about your big brother? While the two of them were talking, the tall man who had been supporting the woman outside seemed to have sensed something and glanced over. However, neither Shi Mengwan nor Su Qing-sang noticed it. Honey, when Hua Jinyao came to pick her up, Su Qing-sang was not surprised to see an extremely sad face. She felt that the word grievance could not be more appropriate. At that moment, in her eyes, Hua Jinyao was no different from a golden retriever that had been neglected by its owner. You actually abandoned me again and ran off to eat by yourself. Su Qing-sang frowned helplessly. What made her even more helpless was that she actually felt a little guilty because of Hua Jinyao's accusation. Sorry, I forgot to tell you. You're always like this. Hua Jinyao was quite displeased. When will you remember that we're already married? I am your husband. Su Qing-sang's lips moved, but she had nothing to say. She really did forget, especially every time Shi Mengwan came to see her. Who did you have dinner with? When Hua Jinyao came to pick her up, she was alone. Chapter 91. Hua Jinyao. Su Qing-sang didn't like his tone. She was married to him, but she still had her own independent personality. Honey, Hua Jinyao, don't be like this. Su Qing-sang wanted to say something, but she found that there were other people passing by. She looked at him helplessly and got into the car first. Hua Jinyao followed her and got into the car. Honey, let's go home first. We'll talk when we get home. It was not a good place to talk. The restaurant was not far from Su Qing-sang's apartment. Half an hour later, the two of them were already in their own little house. Su Qing-sang went into the kitchen and poured a glass of water for herself and Hua Jinyao. She came out and put it in front of him before sitting down opposite him. Hua Jinyao, honey, go ahead. Hua Jinyao sat up straight and looked like he was listening attentively. Su Qing-sang couldn't vent her anger. Hua Jinyao's shameless behavior gave her a headache. You know what? We're married, but I still want to keep some of myself. Honey, let me finish first. Su Qing-sang had been feeling this way for a while. Hua Jinyao entered her life too quickly and too hastily. She wasn't prepared at all. The two of them got married directly and then came to the last step. She wasn't used to such a sudden intimate relationship. Hua Jinyao, I know you're a good person. He agreed to help her under such circumstances and had been very good to her during this period of time. But I feel that our relationship is moving too fast. I hope we can. Too fast. Hua Jinyao interrupted her. Why do I feel that it's too slow? You think about it. We're both married. You see, in fairy tales, after the prince and the princess get married, that's the ending of the story. We rush to the ending as soon as we came. We skipped the middle step. Shouldn't we hurry up and make up for the middle step? Su Qing-sang was speechless and looked at him blankly. So we should seize all the time we have to spend together and fall in love. That's scientific. Hua Jinyao's matter-of-fact attitude made Su Qing-sang completely speechless. That's not what I mean. I got it. Hua Jinyao's expression changed. He looked aggrieved again. Are you disgusted by my attitude just now? I'm not disgusted. I'm just a little unhappy. I really didn't mean to criticize you. Hua Jinyao stood up and walked to her, reaching out to hold her hand. Think about it. I'm married to you, but you didn't invite me to a party with your friends. You're obviously treating me like an outsider, so of course I'm unhappy. Hua Jinyao, I understand. Don't worry. I will restrain myself if I'm unhappy like this in the future. But you have to promise me that if you have a gathering with your friends in the future, please call me, okay? This is not. Don't worry, my table manners aren't ugly either. It's not like he's smacking his lips. If you bring me along, I can even pay for you. How great is that? That's right. It's decided then, Hu Jinyao concluded. Next time you have dinner with your friends, you must invite me. If I'm having dinner with my colleagues, I'll invite you too. That was fair, right? How was that fair? That was not what she meant at all. Hu Jinyao, all right, honey, I'm starving. I haven't eaten yet. I'm going to take a shower first. Could you please order takeout for me? Well, or you can make a bowl of noodles for me. But I don't want you to do it, so I'll order takeout. As soon as she finished speaking, Hu Jinyao gave her another heavy kiss on the face. He kissed the rest of her words away. Chapter 92. By the time Hu Jinyao finished showering, the takeout had arrived. As soon as Su Qing-sang put the takeout on the dining table, Hu Jinyao wrapped his arms around her. Honey, you're so nice. Get out of my way. I'm not. Hu Jinyao kissed her on the cheek. Honey, you're so nice. Look, you're so soft-hearted. You even know to order my favorite dishes. She didn't. She just ordered casually. Let go of me. I'm going to take a shower. Su Qing-sang looked at the man who was as big as a dog and was speechless. She was almost done with her thesis, but she hadn't fully understood a lot of the materials Hongshan brought back last time. When she was almost done and went back to her room, she found that Hu Jinyao was still awake. Su Qing-sang went into the bathroom to wash up. As soon as she lay down, Hu Jinyao came over. Honey, what are you doing? Sensing that his hand was on her body where it shouldn't be, Su Qing-sang's vigilance immediately rose to the highest. Nothing. Hu Jinyao looked a little sad. I just wanted to ask if I could borrow your hand for a while. Borrow her hand? Why would he borrow her hand? Su Qing-sang's hand was quickly grabbed by Hu Jinyao. When she touched something, she quickly withdrew her hand. Hu Jinyao, that's enough. Honey, Hu Jinyao grabbed her hand again. Just for a while. Just for a while. Su Qing-sang was so angry that she almost laughed. Was he really just for a while? You have your own hand. I won't borrow it. That's different. What's different? Your hand is more tender. As Hu Jinyao spoke, he held Su Qing-sang's hand in his and raised it to his face. Look at my wife. Not only is she beautiful, but her hand is also beautiful. It's white and tender. That's enough. Was her hand tofu? It was white and tender. Honey, just lend it to me for a while. Hu Jinyao didn't give up. Su Qing-sang ignored him and quickly withdrew her hand. She turned over and slept on the other side of the bed. Honey, Hu Jinyao came over again. You're so cruel. Hu Jinyao. She had had enough. If you keep messing around, I'll sleep in the guest room. Hu Jinyao didn't dare to make sound, but his face was still full of grievance. He held Su Qing-sang in his arms and didn't dare to do anything else, but he still didn't give up. Actually, shut up, I want to sleep. Honey, you haven't told me who you're having dinner with tonight. Su Qing-sang felt a throbbing pain in her forehead. She abruptly turned around and looked at Hu Jinyao. If you keep making noise, I'll go back to work at the hospital. I won't come back for a week. Honey, you don't have to be so ruthless, right? He had just been on a business trip for a week. It wasn't convenient for her to come back. She still had to be on duty. Are you going to sleep? Sleep. Sleep. Hu Jinyao raised his hand and made a zipper gesture over his mouth. That aggrieved look on his face was unparalleled. Su Qing-sang didn't want to look at him anymore, so she turned away from him. She closed her eyes to sleep, but the corners of her lips couldn't help curling up, and she fell asleep with a faint smile. He Xianyao put the proposal in front of Hu Jinyao. Her little face was still a little nervous. Chapter 93. Hu Jinyao didn't rush to get the proposal. Instead, he looked at He Xianyao expressionlessly. If I remember correctly, Mr. He used to be in charge of this, right? The president he was talking about was naturally He Xiankai. Hu Jinyao didn't have much of an impression of He Xianyao. However, He Xiankai had worked with him several times. Both of them were from Rome City and were considered young talents of the upper-class society. They could not help but appreciate each other. However, he didn't expect He Xiankai to be such a good brother who loved his sister so much. That's right. My brother used to be in charge of this, but I'm back in the country now, and I'm also studying in this field. I think it's completely fine for me to be in charge of this. He Xuanyao's attitude was neither servile nor overbearing. She was polite and well-mannered. She now understood that there were some things that couldn't be solved by crying. She had to let Hua Jinyao know that he Xianyao, was not a good-for-nothing. He was also capable and responsible. All right, I got it. Hua Jinyao nodded. Leave the proposal. I have a meeting to attend. I'll let you know the results later. President Hua, I don't think this is appropriate. He Xuanyao's voice was very soft. Our company has shown the greatest sincerity for cooperation, and we have been working very well together. Why are you being so perfunctory now? If you think it's perfunctory, then so be it. I only know that our company needs to calculate and compare the data of every collaboration. If you're not sure, you can go back and ask Mr. He. He Xianyao bit her lip and was about to retort when she suddenly smiled. Since President Hua is busy, I'll take my leave first. President Hua could wait for the results before letting him know. I will be in Lin City during this period of time. Hua Jinyao didn't comment. He Xianyao got up and left. Before he left, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. By the way, President Hua, something off topic. Before I came to Lin City, I had the honor of meeting Annie. She seems to miss you a lot. If it's convenient for you, you should go back to Rong City to visit Annie. Hua Jinyao raised his eyebrows and didn't respond to He Xuanyao's words. Only when he was out did he press the inside line. His assistant, Yang Wenchang, walked in. Mr. Hua. Hua Jinyao glanced at the proposal, and a cold light flashed across his eyes. Wenchang, help me with something. Hearing Hua Jinyao's order, Yang Wenchang was a little stunned, but he quickly left. Hua Jinyao picked up the proposal, and the coldness in his eyes did not fade at all. It seemed that while he was not in Rong City, these people were making more and more moves. Interesting, very interesting. Su Qingsang had just come out of the operating room when she received the call. Today, there was a pregnant woman in a bad condition. She and her teacher worked together for a long time to save both mother and child. The voice on the other side of the phone made her have no choice but to quickly pick up her bag and phone and leave the hospital. When she left the hospital, she found that her car had been driven away by Hua Jinyao. She had no choice but to take a taxi. Hua Jinyao had to go to work, and she had to be on duty in the future. Time cannot be together forever. Should she buy a car to get around? When she thought of this, she was a little worried. Hua Jinyao seemed to have a lot of pride. If she really bought a car, would he think too much? Realizing that she was actually thinking about Hua Jinyao's cultivation method, Su Qingsang's mood became extremely complicated. Chapter 94. When they arrived at their destination, Su Qingsang got out of the car and registered at the gate before entering the school. Su Qingsang hadn't been to middle school for many years. Speaking of which, this was also her alma mater. The children of the Su family weren't too bad at learning. Even though Su Yusin had caused such a ruckus, he was still a top student. When she arrived at the teacher's office, Su Qingsang saw Su Yusin standing by the desk. The matter was not complicated. Su Qingsang actually knew that. Today was the day when Bai Jihan was discharged from the hospital. Because Bai Jihan did not let her parents know, no one came to pick her up from the hospital. Su Yusin was not fake. He had asked for leave before, but he had not agreed to it. This brat had actually climbed over the wall. Then he was caught red-handed by the guard. It was true that the children in this high school were all wealthy and respectable, but this high school had always been known for being strict. In particular, Su Yusin actually regressed in this monthly test. Previously, he was in first place, but now he was in 9th place. The teacher was naturally angry and wanted to call the parents. Su Yusin didn't dare to let Su Chenghui or Li Qinxue know, so he called Su Qingsang. Sorry. After listening to her teacher's complaint, Su Qingsang stood in front of Su Yusin and said, "Teacher, this matter is indeed Yusin's fault, but he has his reasons." Su Qingsang smiled gently and said, "My sister was sick. Then I'm busy with work these days. My parents are on a business trip again, and Yusin is like this because he wants to take care of his sister." "You have a sister?" The teacher looked at Su Yusin. Yes. The two of them spoke at the same time, showing great tacit understanding. The teacher believed him and lectured him a few more times. He said that his studies were the most important and that even if someone in his family was sick, he could tell the teacher that he could only go out after applying for leave. Su Yusin's attitude was very good. Su Qing-sang accompanied him to listen to the teacher's lecture and promised that he would work harder next time. Only then did she bring Su Yusin out. The two went to pick up Bai Jihan and sent her home. To the Bai family's parents, she only said that she was not feeling well at school because of low blood pressure and anemia, so she came back to rest. Su Qing-sang drove Su Yusin back to school. Su Yusin would take the college entrance examination next year. For kids like them, it didn't matter even if they couldn't get into a university. They could just send them abroad to spend their golden years. However, Su Chenghui had always been very strict with Su Yusin, so if Su Yusin's grades were really bad, it would be terrible. Sister. Thank you. Su Yusin's sister and thank you were especially sincere. You're welcome. Su Qing-sang didn't have much contact with Su Yusin in the past, but now she felt like an older sister to him. You've already called me sister. There's no need to thank me. Su Yusin's face was a little red. In the past, he really couldn't be considered friendly to this sister. Although he didn't do anything overboard, he also didn't treat her as his sister. Sister, don't worry. From now on, you're my sister. Are you stupid? I'm your biological sister. After saying that, Su Qing-sang suddenly remembered her identity. Her smile faded and she felt a little awkward. Yes, you're my biological sister. Su Qing-sang stopped talking. She wasn't even sure if she was her biological sister. When Hu Jinyao returned home that day, he was surprised to find that Su Qing-sang was in a bad mood. Wife, have you eaten? Yes. Su Qing-sang didn't pay much attention to him and sat on the side in a daze. Chapter 95. It looked like she had feelings for him. Hu Jinyao sat next to her and reached out to put his arms around her waist. Nothing. Su Qing-sang avoided his hands. She didn't know what to say. She wasn't sure when Su Yusin said that she was his sister. Honey, Hu Jinyao dragged the last word and held her stubbornly in his arms. What made you unhappy? Tell me, and I'll beat him up. Su Qing-sang's low spirits were somewhat lifted by his words, but she was still speechless. That's enough. This man talked and acted like a child. Could this kind of person really do a good job and have outstanding performance at work? Why didn't she believe it? Tell me. Seeing that she didn't want to speak, Hu Jinyao asked again. You see, when we talk about happy things, it makes both of us happy. But when the unhappy things are said, only half of the person is unhappy. Do you think you should tell me? I'm really fine. She was just thinking about her background. Whether it was the outside world or the Li family, they all knew that she was the illegitimate daughter of Su Chenghui, who betrayed Li Qianxue. She had never seen her mother since she was born. What she knew was that Su Chenghui had her with another woman and then asked for Li Qianxue's forgiveness. A few days after she was born, he took her back to the Su family. Su Chenghui and Li Qianxue had been married for less than a year at that time, but they had an illegitimate daughter. One could imagine the storm. Therefore, her position in the Su family was awkward, and because of this, Su Chenghui and Li Qianxue's relationship had always been superficial. Otherwise, she wouldn't have given birth to Su Yusin after 8 years. It could be seen that Li Qianxue simply disliked Su Chenghui at that time. These words are not said by the Su family. She heard them from the servants of the Su family. Later, those servants talked nonsense again, and they were all fired by Su Chenghui. She was curious about her biological mother. She only asked Su Chenghui who her mother was once, but Su Chenghui refused to tell her. The other members of the Su family wouldn't mention it. Sometimes, she even wondered if she was Su Chenghui's daughter. Could he have carried her back from outside? But it didn't make sense. If she wasn't Su Chenghui's daughter, why would Su Chenghui raise her? Honey, Hu Jinyao was displeased when he realized that she was daydreaming. You've been daydreaming for 10 minutes. Su Qing-sang came back to her senses and looked at him as if she had just seen him. Have you eaten? No. Hu Jinyao couldn't help but look at her with a sad face. Why didn't you wait for me to pick you up at the hospital today? Where did you go? Su Qing-sang frowned and thought of her previous plan. Right, I want to buy a car. I'll leave this car for you to use. Why are you doing this? I'll be happy to take you two in from work. It's not about whether you like it or not. Su Ching-sang thought about the reality of the situation. I can't be on duty forever. There are also cases of sudden surgeries. Your time can't always coincide with mine. Besides, it will be more convenient if I had a car. Hua Jinyao looked into her eyes. Honey, do you dislike me? Despise you? I don't. You still say you don't, Hua Jinyao said accusingly. You just think that I'm useless and incompetent. I can't even afford a car. I didn't say that. This accusation made her speechless. Don't worry about the car. I'll buy it. Chapter 96. Hua Jinyao blinked his eyes, then turned away with a smile and took her hand. I've been negotiating a big deal recently. If it goes well, I'll get a big bonus. Don't rush to buy a car. I'll buy it when I get the bonus, okay? What kind of order can get as much as a car? The more he explained, the more confused Su Ching-sang became. Although she was a doctor, the Su family and the Li family were not. What kind of order could buy a car? It's not a very expensive car. Just buy a cheap car. What kind of cheap car is it? For example, a sports car? Hua Jinyao casually mentioned a car model he had just seen on a mobile phone advertisement. That's more than 100,000, right? Su Ching-sang turned to look at him, and the suspicion on her face deepened. Let's not talk about the car. Can you tell me what kind of order it is? It's just a normal order. Hua Jinyao looked at Su Ching-sang's curious face and suddenly said, I haven't had dinner. I'm so hungry now. I'm so hungry that my stomach hurts. Su Ching-sang stared at his face, suspecting that he was deliberately changing the topic. But she couldn't help but show some concern. Stomach hurts? Where does it hurt? Do you need to take medicine? No medicine. Just cook a bowl of noodles for me. Hua Jinyao touched his stomach. I'm really, really hungry. He was a man, but he spoke with such a tone and expression. Su Ching-sang didn't know what to say. She sighed helplessly. She always seemed to be very helpless when it came to Hua Jinyao. She got up and went to the kitchen to cook noodles for him. She didn't see the subtle change in Hua Jinyao's expression after she left. After dinner, Hua Jinyao didn't let Su Ching-sang wash the dishes. Your hands are so beautiful. They will get rough if you wash the dishes. Honey, be good. I'll find someone to wash them tomorrow. You want to hire a part-time worker? Yeah, just enough to cook and clean for us. Aren't you happy? Su Ching-sang wasn't talking about that. She was thinking, hiring a part-time worker costs money, right? You're buying a car and hiring a worker. What kind of order are you doing? Hua Jinyao looked at Su Ching-sang's face and suddenly realized that it was not a good thing to marry a wife who was too smart. Uh-huh. Su Ching-sang asked again. Hua Jinyao suddenly blinked. Well, wifey, tell me, I'm listening. Your relative has left, hasn't he? Hua Jinyao sat up straight and suddenly moved closer to Su Ching-sang. It's been a few days. They should have left by now, right? The feeling of being stared at by a large dog came again. For a moment, Su Ching-sang forgot what she was going to say. No. Hua Jinyao's face fell, but soon his eyes lit up. Honey, I'll lend it to you. I'm sleepy. Sleep. Su Ching-sang didn't have time to ask him what the project was. It was better to turn over and sleep now. Honey, I really only want to borrow it for a while. Honey. Wife. Su Ching-sang closed her eyes and ignored him. The vague feeling that something was wrong came again, but she ignored it. President Hua, what did you think of the proposal last time? He Xianyao looked at Hua Jinyao. The smile on her face was faint, but there was a light of determination in it. I've read it. Hua Jinyao, who was behind the desk, was much calmer than He Xianyao. And? Chapter 97. He Xianyao didn't look too good. She was involved in the proposal. Did Hua Jinyao mean that she was no longer capable? Was he really dissatisfied with the plan? Or was he dissatisfied with her? President Hua, I don't know what you're not satisfied with, but I think we can improve on it. There's no need to change it. None of them are satisfied. Hua Jinyao didn't give her any face. He Xuanyao's face turned green. President Hua, our companies have been working together for a long time. You know we've been working together for a long time. Since we're old partners, of course you should know our requirements. But to make something like this, do you think it's appropriate? Then you should at least tell me what you're dissatisfied with, right? I said, I'm not satisfied with any of them. Hua Jinyao's words made He Xianyao angry. She took a deep breath to calm herself down. President Hua, Annie Hua, and Uncle Hua, stop. Hua Jinyao stood up and stared into He Xuanyao's eyes with a sharp gaze across the desk. Don't mention my parents in front of me. Business was business, and private was private. If you like my parents, or if you think my parents like you, you can stay with my parents. But when it comes to cooperation, especially in this aspect, I have the final say. Understand? He Xianyao had seen the world. But now, she was so overwhelmed by Hua Jinyao's imposing manner that she couldn't even raise her head. She opened and closed her mouth, but couldn't find her voice for a long time. Jean, whether it's in private or with others, please call me President Hua or Mr. Hua. Now, please leave. Hua Jinyao sat back down. He Xianyao, who couldn't stand the humiliation, gritted her teeth and was about to leave. Don't forget the proposal. Hua Jinyao's voice rang out. She could only grit her teeth and go get it again. She would remember this humiliation. Looking at the closed door, Hua Jinyao picked up the phone and dialed the intercom. Release the news. Tianyu is planning to open a public bidding for the next project. Tianyu was the name of the current branch in Lin City. The He clan, did they really think that they were the only ones who had something to talk about? That might not be the case. Luo Meishan put down the shopping bag in her hand and sat down at the coffee table. She looked at Su Peijian and said, Peijian, that dress really suits you. Why didn't you buy it? I don't like it. Su Peijian's voice was slightly cold. Whether she was at home or outside, she had always been cold. Her clothes were taken care of by professional people, and the new styles of the major brands were delivered to the Su family before they were released. The only reason he came out of shop was because he was free today. Oh, right. Luo Meishan seemed to think of something. I think I saw your brother when I went to the hospital for a physical examination a few days ago. You said. Su Peijian raised her eyebrows. She finally looked interested. Why did he go to hospital? Are you not feeling well? The Su family had a specialized family doctor, and they would have a regular checkup every year. Although Su Yusin went to school outside, their school was an elite school. There should be a school doctor. I don't know, but I think he came out from the obstetrics and gynecology department. Luo Meishan paused. Later, I want to take a look. It seems that your illegitimate daughter works in that hospital. Su Qing sang? Why was Su Yusin looking for her? Chapter 98. How can I not know your brother? I even went back to take a look. Your wife's office is right there. If I'm not wrong, your brother came out her office. Seeing Su Peijian lost in thought, Luo Meishan added, Why do I feel that this might be a trick of that start of yours? What can she do? It wasn't that Su Peijian looked down on Su Qing sang. With her quiet character, what kind of waves could she stir up? Isn't it hard to guess? Think about it. Your mother is the only daughter of the Li family. Whether it's the Su family or the Li family, all the property will belong to you and your brother. It has nothing to do with that start. But what if she doesn't want to? She can't do anything to you, but your brother is young and ignorant. It's hard to say if she wants to hook up with your brother. Needless to say, they were all smart people. Su Peijian pressed her lips into a straight line. How dare she? Su Qingwei gave her a dowry when she got married. She should not have been entitled to a penny of it in the first place. Not to mention that the Su family bought her a house and a car. Why wouldn't they dare? Luo Meishan sneered. These people are greedy and insatiable. Compared with the Li family's huge property, what she has now is nothing. Su Peijian stood up, and Luo Meishan quickly grabbed her hand. What are you doing? I'm going to find her. Don't. Luo Meishan took her hand and asked her to sit down. If you go to her now, there's nothing you can do if she doesn't admit it. Su Peijian sat down again, thinking about Luo Meishan's words. But if she has such a plan, she will definitely give herself away. Then what do you want to do? The Mid-Autumn Festival is coming. I'll ask my father to call her to come back for the festival. If she doesn't have that intention, she will keep a distance from Yusin, just like before. If she has a guilty conscience, she will definitely get close to Yusin. Smart. Luo Meishan gave her an admiring look. Then you can catch her in the act. No. Su Peijian shook her head, her beautiful eyes flashing with sharpness. Su Qing sang, "It's fine if you don't provoke me. If you provoke me, I will let you know what it means to draw water with a sieve." When Hu Jinyao came out of the bathroom, he found Su Qing-sang staring blankly at her phone. What happened? Su Qing-sang shook her head. She didn't know what to say. Honey, Hu Jinyao put his arm around her waist. That relative of yours should have left, right? How many days has it been? Stop fooling around. Su Qing-sang didn't have time to talk to him. She held her phone with a serious look on her face. Honey, are you all right? Hu Jinyao sat up straight and looked at her nervously. My dad called me to come home for the holidays. Festival? What festival? It's the Mid-Autumn Festival next week. Su Qing-sang's voice was flat. My father suddenly called me and asked me to go home to celebrate the festival with him. Let's go then, Hu Jinyao said calmly. Su Qing-sang rolled her eyes at him. Since I moved to boarding school in high school, my father has never asked me to go home for the Mid-Autumn Festival. Do you think he suddenly asked me to go back like this? What's wrong with that? Hu Jinyao shrugged with a normal expression. You're married this year. You're not the same person anymore. A new son-in-law has to come a visit. Chapter 99. Although he had kept the fact that he had come to Lin City a secret, some people with ulterior motives couldn't stop him. If someone were to find out, they would definitely come knocking on his door to curry favor with him. Su Qingwei was a smart man. He was Qing Song's biological father, even if he didn't have to please her. But in this state, he definitely wouldn't offend her. Really? Su Qing-sang pursed her lips into a straight line. She felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't figure out why. All right. Hu Jinyao didn't like it when she kept paying attention to the Su family's stupidity. His big hands circled her waist, and his chin rested on her neck. Honey, I haven't had enough to eat recently. Then you go eat. You can also order takeout. Hu Jinyao hired a part-time helper to come over every afternoon to clean up the house and make dinner. There should still be ingredients left behind by the other party in the fridge. It's not that I'm hungry. Hu Jinyao rubbed his face against her shoulder. You've starved me for a long time. Wife. Hu Jinyao. Su Qing-sang couldn't stand it anymore and stood up. Couldn't this guy be more serious? I said it's not convenient for me. You lied to me. Hu Jinyao turned over and pressed her under his body. How many days have you been inconvenienced? Her body suddenly lost balance, but the soft pillow didn't make her uncomfortable. His face was right in front of hers, and her heart skipped a beat. I'm sleepy. I want to sleep. It's okay. We'll sleep together. Hu Jinyao, I really don't. It's convenient for you. I know. Hu Jinyao kissed her lips. He remembered the treasures he had bought online. Why hasn't he sent it back yet? He couldn't wait for Su Qing-sang to put it on. He couldn't wait to see how Su Qing-sang would look in those thin and beautiful fabrics. Hu Jinyao. Su Qing-sang gritted her teeth. This guy, can't he think of anything else other than this? No. Hu Jinyao kissed her neck and said, Honey, you can't. Tomorrow is Saturday, so you have to let me eat my fill today. You, Shu. Hu Jinyao gently kissed away her voice. Then, he made her unable to speak again. Su Qing-sang had been a little uneasy before. She didn't think that the Su family would harm her or anything. However, the relationship that was clearly trying hard to distance itself suddenly became closer. It always made people wonder if there was something going on. Such uneasiness disappeared after receiving Su Yusin's call. Su Yusin called her and told her that he had called Su Qingwei. She wanted him to invite her back for the festival this year. Since Su Yusin said so, there was no problem. Su Qing-sang was relieved and thought of something else. In the past, Su Yusin's relationship with her had only been ordinary. But if he did this, would it make her attract the attention of Li Qinxue and Su Qingwei again? Of course, she didn't value him that way. Su Qing-sang thought for a moment. It seemed that it was still necessary to remind Su Yusin in private to maintain his previous appearance. Otherwise, the other members of the Su family and the Li family would be unhappy. Su Qing-sang's daydream was interrupted again. The corners of her mouth twitched as she watched Hua Jinyao walk in happily. She really didn't understand. How could Hua Jinyao be so energetic? Moreover, he always looked happy as if he had won 5 million yuan. Chapter 100. Wife. Wife. Hua Jinyao carried a large cardboard box into the room. The cardboard box was a little big, and then he walked to her and put it down. What is this? A gift. Hua Jinyao had a proud expression on his face. It's a gift for you. A gift. Su Qingsang looked at the box that she couldn't see what was inside. Why do you want to give me a gift? It wasn't New Year's Day. It wasn't their birthdays, either. What kind of gift was she giving him? A full moon gift. Hua Jinyao clapped his hands. You see, we've been married for a month, so this is a full moon gift. The corner of Su Qingsang's mouth twitched. How could he say that? All right. Hua Jinyao picked up the box again. Let's go try it on. Clothes? Try it now? Su Qingsang wanted to refuse, but Sister Lu, the part-time helper, had already finished cooking. Miss Su, Mr. Hua, time to eat. Hua Jinyao only realized that there were other people in the room. He suddenly looked a little uncomfortable. Let's eat first. We'll try it after eating. After that, he picked up the box and went to the room. Su Qingsang was left staring at his back in surprise, acting so mysterious. What was this guy doing? After eating, Su Qingsang's doubts were answered. She watched as Hua Jinyao came out with the treasure he had bought online in his hand. It was as if he was presenting a treasure. Wife, try this. Hua Jinyao took out one of them, which he thought was the most suitable for Su Qingsang. Su Qingsang looked at the thin pajamas, which were as thin as if she wasn't wearing them at all. You, don't worry, I bought them according to your size. I promise you can wear them. I don't want to wear them. Su Qingsang refused and ignored Hua Jinyao. I'm going to take a shower. Wife. Hua Jinyao reached out to hold her hand. She was caught off guard. Her body softened and she sat directly on the bed. Hua Jinyao turned his face sideways and handed the pajamas to her with a smile. Try it on. I really think it suits you. Stop it. I'm not. Hua Jinyao's voice sounded a little aggrieved. Honey, don't you like the present I bought? I don't like it. Who would like this kind of rags that were no different from wearing nothing? But I like it. Hua Jinyao held her body in his arms. Look, I like this. Just promise me that you'll wear it for me. If you don't agree, I'll help you change right now. Hua Jinyao was about to take off her clothes as he spoke. How could Su Qingsang let him have his way? She used her hands and feet to push his hand away and then quickly got up. Seeing that Hua Jinyao was going to pester her again, she was very annoyed. On impulse, he grabbed the thin black cloth and rushed into the bathroom. Don't follow me in. Hua Jinyao had achieved his goal, so he wouldn't go in again. Putting away the rest, he began to think about how to let her have one piece a day for the next few days. An idea flashed through Hua Jinyao's mind. His eyes lit up, and he quickly got up to take a shower in the guest bathroom. Su Qingsang struggled in the bathroom for a long time, but she didn't have the courage to put on the pajamas. She really hated Hua Jinyao and felt that he had gone too far. But she also knew that if she didn't wear it, he might really help her wear it. When Su Qingsang came out of the bathroom, Hua Jinyao had already taken a shower and was waiting for her on the bed for a long time. Chapter 101. Seeing Su Qingsang come out, the corners of Hua Jinyao's mouth dropped. Su Qingsang was wearing her pajamas, but she still had a bath towel wrapped around her. He could only see the corner of her skirt under the towel and the two thin straps on her shoulders. Looking at the light that almost pierced through the towel, Su Qingsang quickly walked to the other side of the bed and went to sleep. Okay, it's late. Go to sleep. She pulled up the quilt to cover herself, but Hua Jinyao was faster than her. He quickly threw the quilt aside and pulled her bath towel. Hua Jinyao. The bath towel left her body and fell to the ground. Su Qingsang was embarrassed. She reached out and turned off the light. Hua Jinyao had already grabbed her hand and held her waist with the other hand. Honey. Hua Jinyao lowered his head and smelled the fragrance on her body. He felt that the smell was refreshing. You're so beautiful. Stop it. Su Qingsang turned her head. I'm sleepy. I'm going to sleep. Okay, I'm sleepy too. Let's sleep together. You. His sleep was definitely not the same as hers. Honey. Hua Jinyao's voice was much hoarser than usual. He kissed her on the cheek and said, "Black really suits you." Shut up. Her face began to burn. Really? It's very beautiful. Hua Jinyao thought about the images in his mind. Don't worry, I also bought red, white, and many other colors. My wife is beautiful, and her skin is fair. Any color is beautiful. Su Qing not only blushed, but also her toes. Don't say it. Okay, I won't say it. He did. Su Qing didn't even have the strength to lift a finger. She watched Hua Jinyao carry her to the bathroom to wash and carry her out. She wanted to sleep, but Hua Jinyao didn't want to. He had just eaten a big meal and was in a very good mood. Honey, Su Qing didn't want to talk to him. She knew very well how easily this guy got excited. How about we pick a time to go on our honeymoon? I don't have time. She had a lot of things to do in the hospital, so she couldn't leave. How can you not have time? Isn't it National Day soon? Are you the only doctor in your hospital? You should be able to take a few days off, right? I'll take a look. Over the past few days, they had treated several pregnant women with PIH, and their due date were all around National Day. Honey, Hua Jinyao put his arms around her waist and kissed her on the neck. We haven't even gone out to play together. Maybe next time. Faced with his attitude and tone, Su Qing somehow couldn't bring herself to reject him. Don't worry. I can arrange everything for you when the time comes. It was true. I promise you'll have a good time. Su Qing felt sleepy and wanted to sleep. Hua Jinyao was still in high spirits. Honey, do you have anywhere you want to go? Tell me, where do you want to go? Su Qing thought about her childhood dream and closed her sleepy eyes. Her voice became softer and softer. Norway. Norway? You want to go to Norway? Do you like it? Su Qing turned over and habitually found a relatively more comfortable position in his arms. Yes, I want to see the aurora borealis. After saying that, she fell asleep because she was so tired. Hua Jinyao looked down at her. Her face was only the size of his palm. Her eyes were closed, and her long eyelashes were like small fans. Her skin was so white that it was almost transparent. Not even a pore could be seen. She was defenseless and snuggled against his chest like a kitten. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.